Are you all ready to join me today in our trip to outer space?
Come along quietly or not.
I will talk to you of art. For there is nothing else. Some artist bait a hook.
Yes.
Bite upon it.
Classy. And now, without further ado,
hello, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Planet Shivers podcast. I'm Albert Shivers, and it's a big episode today. Musician, comedian, filmmaker, and entertainer Nate Marks is finally on the show today. But quick, I just want to bring you guys up to date on what I've been up to. I still have artwork at the Gamut Art Gallery in Stroudsburg. I have 4 pieces there, all my high contrast, drippy, weirdo, surrealistic ink stuff. Also, I am in the process of working on cover art for a brand new Lizzie Borden book that's going to be coming out. I'm lucky enough to know the author, and she is also going to be producing a line of trading cards that myself and a few other really cool artists are going to be taking part in. So we have the Lizzie Borden book, and there's also going to be a Lizzie Borden souvenir shop, I am imagining is what's going to happen. Look, you got all this press for all the male serial killers. Let's give some love to the ladies. So I'm excited to be working on this Lizzie Borden piece of art. It's going to be a lot of fun. My deadline is quickly approaching on that. As of right now, I got a lot of different kind of art stuff cooking. Lately, I've been more of an ink mood. Specifically, I just finished a piece of Richard Pryor, doing a portrait of him. And I'm also working on a portrait of Lenny Bruce. And I got a couple other weird ones that I'm going to surprise you with. But you can keep up with all my stuff on Instagram at Albert Shivers. Or you can come say hey on Facebook, which is also just Albert Shivers. Again, I'm very excited for this episode. Nate Marks is on the show, joined by my buddy Isaac. And the 3 of us have great conversation. And I'm already ready for part 2 with Nate. I don't know, and when you're done listening to this, you're probably going to be ready too. Many of these episodes always leave me wanting more. I enjoy hearing people's stories, where they're from. I think we're all artists. I can assume if you're listening to this, you're most likely artistically inclined. We're all artists. And we all take very different paths, but end up in a lot of the same spaces. And all these different paths, all these different encounters that we go through are all very interesting to me. And I think that we all have a huge potential to learn and be inspired by one another. And this was a podcast that was very inspiring to me. And I hope it is the same to you. Enjoy Nate Marks. Here you go, folks.
hot squirrel,
Give me that.
hot squirrel.
Folks, welcome to another episode of the Planet Shivers podcast. I am, and always will be, Albert Shivers, and I'm here with Isaac Wilson.
Hello.
My right hand, and I'm very excited to have a guest on the show today, and who I don't think any titles can contain. Nate Marks. Thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
So, I guess we'll jump into first what you've been up to now.
Sure. Well, today, I try to do an open mic every week, and then I try to schedule a show to do as often as possible. But at one time, my philosophy was anybody that's performing with me at any given time on stage is Nate Marks and the Squirrel Trappers. Okay. So any configuration of any musician I just met, whether it's improv or horrible or whatever, or a cover song, we're Nate Marks and the Squirrel Trappers that give the facade that I'm a established performer. And it just started clicking because my friend Vanessa and myself were often playing together.
Hi, boys and girls. I don't know how we're going to follow that last act, but we're going to attempt to. Here we go. What are you gonna do at the Cincinnati Zoo? Kids are falling on your head, trying to settle, and now you're dead. Harambe! Don't get your hands on my kid.
And then our mutual friend Rob, who's Vanessa's bass player for Rubik's Cube, he basically started learning the songs that my songs, and we became the official trio of Nate Marks and the Squirrel Trappers. So that is the current configuration of Nate Marks and the Squirrel Trappers. But anybody at any given time playing with me is considered a Squirrel Trapper.
Nice. That's almost like Funkadelic, George Clinton.
Yeah, sure.
Same thing.
Mm-hmm. Parliament or Funkadelic. The guy was doing two different bands, and he was basically finding loopholes in copyrights to get away with that. Yeah.
So you just did a run of shows in Virginia.
Virginia, yeah. I went there last week. Vanessa and myself, I was pitching to her an idea of like, hey, let's get the heck out of here, see a beach, and hit up some open mics. Since it's after the end of the world opening up again, I wanted to try to find more appeal and reach out to some untapped audiences. And I wanted to do Rhode Island, and the Rhode Island's completely closed. I called like 20 different bars and coffee houses, and then I called about 20 in Virginia. And just by talking to one guy, guy says, hey, no, there's nothing going on in Virginia, I would basically interject and say, hey, I know it's not your job, but it would mean a lot. I'm just calling around. Do you know anybody that is in Virginia doing a show? And somebody knew somebody that said, yes, there's one at Virginia Beach opening up their first show in over a year. His name is Damian Wade. Reach out to that guy. He's a good guy. So I told Vanessa, hey, I found an open mic. So we went to Virginia, Chincoteague Island. It's like the island of wild horses in Virginia Beach. The venue, Keegan's, is about 2 hours north of that, still on the coast. And so we saw the beach, I saw some wild horses, had a new sandwich, and then I wanted to reach out and do some open mic out there. And we did about a 20-minute set, and they loved it. It was very well received.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So let's go into a little bit of the inception of the Squirrel Trappers. Some of your mythology behind it.
Sure. So I didn't really realize that subconsciously why I thought it was funny. I like to think of squirrel trapping as like the sound wave we produce of us, an eclectic blend of all genres, is squirrely. So like the sound wave or the music experience, I call it the squirrel. There's a sound of squirrel, whatever you're feeling, or it's a mischievous, wandering creature, that intrigues me. And I was hoping to maybe capture that essence and provide it in an audio format. And so music is the squirrel. And so us finding and trapping that, honing it and releasing it, we would be the Squirrel Trappers. And so I didn't realize subconsciously why I maybe put that into my vocab was the last time I actually ever had squirrel meat was, it's a kind of a funny story, was that my dad, he's kind of like a mountain type guy from Carbon County mountains, like below the Poconos. And he would hunt squirrels growing up. So I've had squirrel meat many times growing up. And the last time I ever had squirrel was, I guess I was 13, and it was my mom and dad's wedding anniversary. And if you imagine, like, the average person, lady coming home from work and expecting some sort of wedding anniversary dinner, it would be like a nice pasta or a steak dinner or something. Mm. And she came home from work to find my dad had spent the day hunting squirrels and made a big squirrel platter. All these dead squirrels on the table, and he made a feast of squirrels. And when she walks in, she could see in her eyes, like her eyes start watering, her heart's breaking. She's like, I don't want to have squirrels on my anniversary. And my dad is a simple man, and he didn't go to Red Lobster or go to the Olive Garden. He spent all day in the bushes hunting these things, cleaning them, cooking them, and that's a big gesture, not dropping a $50 on a dinner. He spent hours in the woods getting these things to the table. And you can see he's a broken man eating squirrels. My mom's crying eating squirrels, and I'm 13 just observing this unusual dynamic. And I didn't realize it, but I think that's how the squirrel trapping kind of came into me, because it feels like it's like an odd defeated love as well as an animal and a music sound. It's,
Did you eat the squirrels?
I love squirrel. Yeah, I haven't had it since, but yeah, I've eaten squirrel growing up. But that was the last time I think my mom deterred my dad from further squirrel hunting. And that was the last squirrel my dad has eaten, the last squirrel I've eaten, the last squirrel my mom's eaten. That was on their wedding anniversary, which I think is like September 19th, 1996. Something like that. If I would put it on a calendar, yeah.
That's my folks' wedding anniversary. That's funny.
Wow, there's a breeding season in here or something, yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Does your dad make squirrel for your mom, or like they moved on from that?
Nah, they were like hunting rattlesnakes and stuff when they were like out in Arizona and shit. So sort of along the same lines, I suppose. Yeah, just varmints and stuff.
I think snake's probably a better aphrodisiac for keeping the marriage together.
Maybe it could
Are
be.
your parents still together?
Yeah.
Good. It's probably all that snake
All
meat.
that snake, yeah. Maybe, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how long have you had the Squirrel Trapper name? How long have you been?
I guess playing with Vanessa and Rob, it's been 1 year of calling myself Nate Marks and the Squirrel Trappers. I have, in my catalog of albums, I have 6 albums, and the third album's called Hide Your Squirrels, and it was mostly a bluegrass album, and I guess I named the album after an announcement I had. There's a song called Thinking of You at the Zoo, and I played it at like a Tamaqua hippie fest outside, like Stonehenge Park. I don't know if you know Stonehenge Park. Yeah.
Familiar with it.
New Hampshire? Or
Oh, no. And it's in Pennsylvania, outside of Tamaqua. Got a real nice guy named Kevin Smith, too. He hosts Wagon Works. He's an artist in Tamaqua, and really nice guy. He put together a show, and I was doing a song that said, thinking of you at the zoo, it's kind of like how you're thinking of your loved ones, of someone that you're fond of, but you just keep seeing them in like the faces of animals. And it's kind of like a naughty innuendo for like maybe bestiality or suggestion like that. And at the end of the song, I'm like, hide your squirrels, Tamaqua! You know? Like that's going to get everyone excited and aroused, you know? So
Right.
that's hence the name of the album. And then I just realized, I like saying hide your squirrels. I like saying squirrels. And I just figured, like, everybody needs, like, from P-Funk trying to find the funk, or Sun Ra talking about space. Yeah. You know, like, I want to have, like, a theme or a mythology or something to talk about. So a lot of my music is about Bigfoot, squirrels, sandwiches, and, like, a funnier side of trauma and tragedy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's all sorts of stories, not only across PA, but across the country. Bigfoots. I tend to enjoy... I don't have an opinion either way. I enjoy the mystery of it. I'd rather live in a world where there might be a Bigfoot than where there definitely isn't. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm happier with the mystery of it. So you've said that you've had an encounter. Or you've seen one? Would you mind going into that?
Sure. When I was... as far as what I saw, I always coined the term ground sloth. Because that's what I felt like I was seeing. And it's kind of like a part 1 of a 2-story, because I didn't really validate my experience until someone else had told me what they saw. So when I was about, I guess, 9 or 10, in Alberta, Pennsylvania, it was me and Josh Pearson were walking through a field which is now developed in Lockridge Park, Alberta. And we're walking along this field, and on the edge of a field, throughout the bushes, we see what looks like sort of a guy in a giant bear costume crawling or slithering on his belly with long arms and long legs. And when we would stop, he would stop, this thing would stop, and would lay there motionlessly with its arms extended. We'd continue walking, and it would just do this very awkward body slither with its long, hairy, extended arms, and then it would stop again and lay down. I'm 9 or 10, and I see this thing with my friend, and I say, yo, Josh, you see that thing? He's like, yeah, I don't know what that thing is. It's like, all right, let's just get the hell out of here. And we take off. We run. I take this memory and bury it in the memory bank. I don't know what it was. And I think maybe at the time, I don't know what I was capable of thinking as a 9 or 10-year-old, but I thought it might be a guy playing a prank on kids, 8 in the morning, in a rural area. Like, why would a guy be wearing a bear suit, hanging out in the woods, trying to spy on kids? Like, that's kind of perverted. I thought almost nothing of it for years and years until I was 16, and in the same park, Lockridge Park, Alberta, I saw an orb come out of the ground, and there were fireflies out, and I was with a guy named Tom Folds, and we're walking on the path in Lockridge Park, Alberta, and he says, hey, Nate, do you see that red firefly or that pink firefly? And no one's ever seen a pink lightning bug. And I said, oh my God, there's a pink lightning bug. And it starts approaching me and my friend, and as it's approaching us, it starts expanding and contracting. It's a condensed ball of iridescent light. It was approaching us. It was conscientious of our presence, rather than being a wandering light from some sort of like natural, gas or however they explain orbs. And it approached us, and it was about 5 feet in front of us, spinning around, and a beam of light shot out underneath it, and the beam of light started separating into what seemed to be the silhouette of legs. I hold on to my friend's arm, he's holding on to my arm, and he takes off running, and I take off running after him, and the whole thing I'm yelling, like, thank you, God, like a God revealed his presence to me. And I grew up in a very religious upbringing, so I had like a spiteful interpretation of what God was, and I found that to be healing for me, to find that God is aware and involved and trying to show me something beautiful and rare. And I would tell everybody I knew in Alberta, me and Tom saw an orb. We saw an orb. It came out of the ground. It approached us, and it expanded, became a silhouette of legs, and we took off running. I felt the presence of God, and I was really excited. And meanwhile, my friend Mike Yerger, he has like a solemn, monotone type of voice, and what he said is like, oh wow, in the same park, me and Damien were out in Lockridge Park, and we were smoking a bowl, and I think I saw a ground sloth. I said, what do you mean you saw a ground sloth? He goes, well, it was a full moon, and the moon was very bright, and we saw the shadow of something under a tree, and it crawled from one tree to another, and it looked like this. And he demonstrates the movement of this creature, and he gets down on his hands and knees and does this belly slither with his extended arms, and when he reenacted what he said he saw, my heart skipped a beat, and I said, oh my God, I saw the same thing when I was a kid, didn't tell anybody or think it was worthwhile talking about, and I was so inspired. And that being said was how I realized I wasn't alone on Paranormal Phenomenon in Alberta, Pennsylvania, and somebody else saw it. And I felt that there was also like maybe a meant-to-be predestined network of people in my life that are supposed to see these things, because the phenomenon of which I saw, I later did see a UFO, the third installation of my phenomenon experiences. I saw the UFO with Tom Folds of Orb fame and Mike Yerger of Ground Sloth fame. So like here are like the holy trinity of paranormal perceivers, and we saw the same thing in the Everglades together, but it was that instance, and my first album is called Hex and Dance, and the very cover of it is a ground sloth crawling out of an orb, and most of the songs, I know it's not, I say like clever marketing or I say lucrative marketing to like say, here is my debut album. I want to tell the world about sloth and orbs. Like, you know, you want to talk about, like, you know, sing about your girlfriend or the government or something edgy or trendy. And it's like, I'm just here talking about sloth and orb. And if in case there's any misinterpretation, the cover is a sloth and orb. Yeah. And that was my first album dedicated to sloth and orbs of Alberta. So I think that answered the question.
Yeah.
That's pretty common, like, from the encounters and people and, like, interviews I've heard of, like, Sasquatch and everything. That is, like, a thing they do, I think. Like, that weird sort of spider crawl, like, ninja thing. There's like, I don't know, there's this other podcast, Sasquatch Chronicles, I don't know if you've heard of it, but dude's had on like hundreds of people at this point, thousands of hours, and yeah, like multiple people have said that weird sort of wood ape species does that. So I think that's kind of interesting. It's like, drives it home.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and there's too many conversations for you to write it off,
right?
Kind of thing, and you could hear it in certain people's voices where you feel as though this person's not lying. Yeah. Like something happened to them.
Mm-hmm. And in the cosmic scheme of time sequence, like we're like we watch TV or podcasts or internet or stuff like that. But this book I got called, it's a stupid title or lackluster anyway. It's called Hairy Giants, but it breaks it down biblically, like the Nephilim, the fallen angels. I don't know if you know that, but in the book of Enoch or in Genesis, the angels that were kicked out of the heavens mated with women and begat giants. And the book of Enoch, which was not included in the original Bible, is basically all about the fallen giants. And that's why God wanted to flood the world with the flood for Noah. So in the Genesis, you have like this abridged version where the world was wicked and God wanted to fix it, so he flooded the world and Noah survived, you know. But this goes on and on. It's not about wickedness. It's about like this hybrid of giants, of angels and women begat giants. And the Nephilim may or may not have carried through some sort of ancestry into common times where like they are the long lost descendants of that fallen angel or something like that. They're just a hominoid half-breed of some sort of human that deviated from the path of biology. But the book is really good, and then it goes on from biblically explaining about like the Nephilim and the fallen giants and these hairy hominoids to the Middle Ages or the more updated eras where Alexander the Great writes in his diary how him and his armies have fought against giant apes that are like wearing, gear and have swords, like 7-foot tall things, and then you also find out that the Smithsonian Institute has actually lied about destroying thousands of giant skeletons, and they've admitted this. Yeah. Like it just disrupts the narrative of whatever, either evolution or science or like what they claim to be able to explain. Like it just throws a boomerang into the mix of like their professional official statements when you discover that there are giants everywhere. And like you look up giant skeletons, you'll find in every single state in the United States and all around the world there were giant skeletons everywhere. So
exactly. Well, yeah, if you think like right before the last great extinction event or the last great flood cataclysm or whatever, you had all the like these sort of like replications of like animals alive today, but they were just like scaled up, like the megafauna. Like you said, like giant ground sloth. There was like a 12-foot tall sloth that would like crawl around, or the giant short-nosed bear. Like all these things, mammoths and shit. It's like you got to think like there could have been like a megafauna version of like hominids. It's like again like giant people running around that have just been, I don't know, maybe like evolved or just sort of adapted to kind of hide out from modern civilization. There's a lot of places like regular people just can't go, so you got to think like who knows what's really out there. Yeah, I'm guessing if it is a thing, probably in the next few years there'll be like some kind of disclosure, because it's like it's such a smaller world nowadays. Information's moving so fast in so many places. Like they might just come out with it. I know Kansas has a Bigfoot trapping season or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, let's turn Bigfoots. Let's talk about some sandwiches.
The
Sandwich Enthusiast Society of Pennsylvania.
I am the president of that movement.
Let's talk about it.
Okay. I used to gauge culture in any like new town or city I'd visit by if they have a good record shop, a good brewery, and a good sandwich. Okay. And generally speaking, every town does have that, or every cultured city or town should have that. Mm-hmm. And so everywhere I'd go, I just look up best sandwich, and then I realized like there's no real like app. The world is supposedly so mapped out and categorized with special interest groups that you could find anything you're looking for, like a furry community or something like that. You can find anything you're looking for, but you really can't find a good app to recommend a sandwich. There's no existing network of a sandwich recommendation exchange. And I was like trying to be the change I wanted to see in the world. So I would do freelance sandwich and journalism and investigation, find out what the sandwiches are. And I find that it's a great way to have basically a wholesome community where it's like no politics or anything. It's the universal love of sandwiches connects the basic human race into one sandwich-loving unit. Yeah. And I found it's great. And a lot of people, not to any fault of their own, like if you're in the coal regions or Poconos, you never heard of a banh mi because you don't know of a Vietnamese restaurant near you. That's not your fault, Right. Or a shawarma or something like that, Like, so from the bodegas in the cities to the hangouts in the hills, like there's a lot of people not knowing of what one another's sandwiches are up to, and I'm trying to forge together this healthy sandwich exchange and a network of sandwich-loving enthusiasts to support one another in their quest for finding sandwiches. So I started about a year ago. I think I had like 260 members or so last I checked, just daily. And I was trying to find whatever sort of sandwich headlines are making the news, And even just today, I had a smoked trout sandwich, my first time from the Cure Cafe. I never had a smoked trout sandwich. And was floored. Cure Cafe is great, but that's one of the things I find to be like a healthy pastime. It's sandwiches. Everybody loves them. And I made these sandwich shirts, and I'm flattered. So I had this idea to be like to fake it till you make it, where I want to have this like illusion of like an established sandwich empire, where I'm the self-proclaimed sandwich president. And people that don't know me, if they just start seeing people with random sandwich shirts walking into their shop, there's going to have this impression like, oh my God, it's not only just a group, it's a movement. There's actually like, maybe they're going to have to step up the sandwich quality when they see a person walking in there. I want to have a certificate on like official certificate paper, anonymously sent to my favorite sandwich shop saying, this establishment Damascus in Allentown, has been officially recognized by the Sandwich Enthusiast Society of Pennsylvania for its outstanding contributions to the sandwich community. Like, if you're a sandwich shop owner and you get this framed thing in the mail, like, oh my God, we're being recognized officially by who? Like, 38-year-old guy works at a flea market. They don't need to know that, but like...
No, they'll hang that shit up.
They'll hang that shit up, yeah. And so I'm very flattered when I walk around and I introduce myself, like, I'm Sandwich President, it's very nice to meet you. Like, it sounds kind of like a joke, but maybe one day it will be considered an official title. It's an official title, but maybe it'll be more widely accepted as one.
What's to me like one of the most unique sandwiches that you've found?
I'm a full believer in the Dagwood Sandwich, and you can't really find that anywhere. That's like your own sandwich. Dagwood's from the Blondie comics. I don't know if you know Blondie comics.
I'm not super familiar.
It's like one of those old like Sunday paper comics, but the Dagwood is basically just this giant piled up sandwich that you'd find on Scooby-Doo or like Slimer and the Ghostbusters. Just a giant piled sandwich, like fish heads are hanging off of it, like you know what I mean. There's just a leg of lamb is stuck in there, but it's an art form as well as a sandwich, and just seeing something. It's also like an architect. Like an engineered masterpiece of architect that you could make something so giant and aligned and balanced. So seeing the Dagwood is both like a science, an art form, and a culinary wonder. And so I appreciate a giant towering sandwich, and it makes you challenge yourself. You realize how mortal and limited you are when you're face to face with a sandwich that you can't win.
Yeah. How does one conquer that? Like, is it just split down the middle, or like you just dig into it? I don't know. You just have to go in and you got to get in it to win it. Just devour, yeah. And
I have easily put on lost and gained 20 pounds over sandwiches alone. That's it. So, yeah, it's like a new high. Some people are chasing the dragon or trying to, some people have to find love, drugs, or religion. And what I'm like looking for is like that thrill from sandwiches. Yeah. And love, drugs, and religion work for many, but sandwiches I think will never lose you.
I don't think so.
No.
I think you're right about that. What do you look for personally in a sandwich?
The foundation has to be good bun. There's a term coined by this guy Jeff Rush, who's the founder of the Hot Dog Society, Pennsylvania local, but he coins it bun integrity. So you want to have good bread. That's important. Yeah. Then you want to have fresh, meats and cheese or whatever is on there, and it has to look good, feel good, be made with love, and also taste good. And I just think that you should basically have a healthy balance of all the elements of content, presentation, great bun or bread foundation, and on top of that, it could be a traditional type sandwich, but if it's really good, like a traditional club sandwich or whatever, it'll stand out as a masterpiece because it's a beautiful... No sandwich can be replicated. They're like snowflakes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You cannot mass produce a beautiful sandwich. They're all precious little snowflakes. Even the sandwich I had today, I bet the second trout sandwich they made today looked a little bit, or felt a little bit different than the one I had.
Oh, yeah.
That's my very own unique, exclusive sandwich.
Pretty cool.
You're in a sandwich hotspot right here. Stroudsburg has a lot of good things. I'm gonna check out I don't even want a sandwich. I'm just like just because I'm here, I feel like it's like my obligation and duty as a sandwich president to try the goat, the barbacoa, pulled goat sandwich. So I never had goat on bread. I'd like to see how that works. I might have had goat on pita, but I don't think I've had goat on bread.
I was just thinking. I was like, what? But yeah, no, that would be. Completely. I don't know if I've ever... I've had the lamb gyros. I don't know if I've even had goat.
I don't think I've had goat either. I think I've had goat at like a Caribbean or Jamaican place. Okay. Or Spanish place, but I've never had... I guess they're Portuguese Mexican. El Moreno it says, but I have not had a goat sandwich. And I was perusing menus on my way to get a sandwich. I just want to weigh out my options and see what kind of sandwich... We're in like the red light sandwich district. And I was just seeing what's going on in the world. And
just sandwiches in the window with a red light bulb.
Yeah. I'm just smitten by gimmicks, novelties, and very rare options. And I've never heard of a barbacoa sandwich. And so I'm probably going to get that as a chaser today. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I document all my sandwiches.
Awesome. So where can people find or join this enthusiast group?
It is a Facebook group. So the Sandwich Enthusiast Society of Pennsylvania is a Facebook group. Just get on there and share your sandwiches, homemade or outsourced, and just keep it nice. Be nice. Talk about sandwiches. That's it. Yeah.
I hate to say, how'd you get started?
Sure.
But,
I guess whatever it is I'm doing is a manifested collective response to just like a lot of just like being exposed to a lot of I don't know how to say it. Just normal music or average people. I think like mediocrity is way too celebrated. People like simple songs, rock songs, or songs that say "baby, baby, baby" or whatever. And I'm glad that some people I know were exposed to a lot of music and a lot of interesting music. My parents only listened to like the Beatles, Rolling Stones, and Fleetwood Mac, so I kind of always had this resentment towards like 70s pop rock stuff, which I grown to appreciate now, but I was like resentful of it growing up. I was like 15, 16, and I was listening to like a Miles Davis On the Corner record. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, that's my favorite Miles Davis record.
But I'm like 15, and like, my friends and peers are listening to like, Wu-Tang, Nirvana, and Marilyn Manson. It's like heroin, gangster rap, or Antichrist stuff. Right. And I'm listening to instrumental jazz, and my mom's like, turn that shit off! It's like, a lot of parents might be glad their kids are listening to instrumental music, and I was like discouraged from doing so. Yeah. And so I always liked all kinds of music, but I didn't really know how to play anything until my mid to late 20s, although I very much liked music. So the first earliest performances I had were basically me tuning things in my own way, playing with amplified toys like rubber chickens. I was really a big fan of Harry Parch. I don't know if you know Harry Parch. No. He was a composer that built all of his own instruments out of like salvaged junk, giant bowls, giant glass chimes, oddball-looking wooden blocks. This stuff looks like furniture from an alien's living room, and he basically rewrote music to be made with these homemade instruments. And so I enjoyed making instruments and tuning things to my own vocab of music because it didn't make sense to anybody else. So I couldn't hit a wrong note. I was playing my own music with my own instruments, so the first few times I was playing were very much like, performance art type things where it's challenging melody and tonation and percussive rhythmic nature of a traditional song because it's all new music. And people were blown away by it. Like I would amplify, you put a guitar pickup on an electric fan, every tong on the fan is a different length, meaning it has a different vibration when you pluck it. And if you pluck the same things 5 different ways in a row, you create a melody by plucking a fan. And I just realized like you could basically rewrite music by just plucking a fan. I didn't know anything about chords or music theory, but I was just doing that kind of thing for a while. And then I started trying to learn how to play guitars, and I learned the banjo is my first instrument. I took 2 lessons. I didn't like the guy, so I quit having 2 lessons. But I always liked all kinds of music, but my favorite kind of genre of music is like genre defiance. I like the musicians that don't really adhere to one genre, and that fascinated me by being able to have elements of like jazz and country and heavy metal and maybe something that's like sort of psychedelic. And I get bored easily with like long guitar solos or maybe pretentious noise stuff. I've sat through all of that stuff, and I'm just trying to basically make it the bottom denominator is that I want my music and performance to be entertaining to the snobs, to the yuppies, to the local yokels, to the blue-collar guy, to everybody. I want you to be entertained because I'm presenting something that's supposed to be universally loved and accepted. Like I'm trying to give, and if you don't like it, that's okay. That's on you as well. Right. But I'm trying to make it so that it's not an unattainable enjoyment for somebody. Like jazz isn't for everybody, or heavy metal's not for everybody. But if I can combine that, present it to you, maybe you find that you actually did like jazz or heavy metal. Yeah. I'm going to throw this out there as, you know who Sun Ra is? Yes. Okay, I'm a huge Sun Ra fan. Okay. And Sun Ra is one of those things that was a big inspiration for me trying to put on a theatrical type of performance. Sun Ra claimed he came from outer space. He was a gift to black people to take them back to another planet. Mm-hmm. And this was like at a time needed in the early 60s and 70s. And like his message of love, hope, and just like self-awareness of just trying to reach out to everybody. The music was universal, but trying to reach out and basically say this music is a gift to Earth, and I'm trying to bring you all with me to experience a new form of music that makes sense in another world. Like Earth is doomed and tragic. I want to help heal you with this music from another world. So the one sax player, flute player, Marshall Allen, who co-wrote some of the songs on an album called Angels and Demons at Play, I went to see him play a sax solo at a Little Philly dive bar in maybe 2003. And I go into this bar, and I see the guy dressed up like wearing Sun Ra garb. He's like the only black guy there. He's the only guy that is in his 80s there, and he has a saxophone around him. So it's like, that's obviously Marshall Allen. I was smitten. I sat up next to Marshall Allen and go, wow, it's so nice to meet you, Marshall Allen. I'm a big fan. Your music has changed my life. It's an honor to meet you. And so the first thing I asked him was say, these are two things that I took away from like actually hearing a musician that believed in his philosophies. It wasn't just like a show that they put on. The guy actually believed in what they were doing, their own mythology. It was not a show. I said, Marshall, what do you think you're going to play tonight? He goes, what do I think I'm going to play tonight? I don't think when I play, I feel when I play. You think when you fall in love? You think when you hate somebody? You don't think or feel that. You feel that. You know, you feel that. And they pulled out, it's like, he puts it away, goes, I'm going to play how I feel tonight. You cannot think how you feel. I'm like, okay. You know, like me trying to over-intellectualize music is maybe a fault of mine, you know? Like notes on paper or hitting the right note or is everybody in key, you know? Marshall Allen didn't think so. Him playing from the heart, that's what he was talking about. Yeah. And then the second question I have, Marshall, what do you think of music today? Do you like the standard for pop music? Do you like what jazz has become? Do you like what the jazz audience has become? Do you like country music or progressive rock? Do you like this kind of music? And he gave me a parable, and it blew me away. He puts his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, okra. I'm like, okay. He goes, I used to hate okra. I hated it growing up. I didn't like the way my mom made it. I didn't like the way my grandma made it. I hated okra growing up. And then one day, I had okra, and a different way it was made, and I realized it wasn't okra that I was hating. It was the way they were making the okra. Mm-hmm. And like the hair on my neck stood up, and I'm like, you just explained how the average person might say, I don't like jazz or heavy metal or country music. It's like, maybe you don't because you didn't hear the one for you yet. Yeah. Like, on the corner, the average person might have heard Weather Report on the Weather Channel, but they hear On the Corner, that's a funky, fun album with some amazing guitar on there. So, just as an example, him comparing music to okra, and not even like saying, here's a parable or here's an analogy. He spoke in a parable. Yeah. Like, there's a Sermon on the Mount, and I was a 21-year-old at a bar by myself, having a musical legend grabbing my shoulder and angrily explaining okra to me, and it was like an honor. It was such an honor, and I took a lot from that.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
This holiday, buy gefilte fish in gleaming glass jars, made in the finest tradition of Passover under strict rabbinical supervision.
Delicately light, always right. Gefilte fish in jars.
Choose your favorite brand at your local food market. A message from the Specialty Foods Trade Institute.
Let's pick up from where you left off.
So there's basically a transitional period where I started basically winning some audiences over, but the first few times I would ever play it out was met with hostility and resentment. And that's interesting. I think it helped me get thicker skin and either affirm that I should believe in myself, because it'd be easy to get discouraged from that. But the town I'm from, Albertus, Pennsylvania, had a bar called the Iron Horse. And the Iron Horse was sort of this like hick bar that reminds you of like the Wild West days. For instance, like I've seen like a guy slow dancing with somebody's wife, and the guy come up and take the guy's wife and throw her into the jukebox, and everybody bum rushes them and throws them all out, and then they just go back like nothing happened. The bartender literally was like a Vietnam vet with an eye patch who talked out of the side of his mouth like a pirate, like they're like hired actors for this atmosphere. Or there was a wedding reception there where somebody got jealous over somebody danced with somebody and brought in a gun and fired out the windows and the ceiling, and it was like the Wild West. A lot of cops came in, they closed the place down for a little bit, but this was the Iron Horse in Albertus, PA, and the first time I ever had a show was me and a friend, Eric Snyder. We had this idea where we were starting to play guitar and drums together. We're like, hey, let's learn a couple songs that people might like at the Iron Horse and go there and play the set. So we learned War Pigs, which is an easy song to play, and I know all the lyrics by Black Sabbath, War Pigs. So we talked to the bartender, hey, we want to play a quick couple songs for the locals, if that's okay. And, okay, sure. So we set up a little drum set and a guitar, and there's these drunk local good old boys there. And the first thing I hit is, dun and generals gathered in their masses. You know, as soon as I said that, dun guy in the back, no one even asked his opinion. He goes, put my dick up in your asshole. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, we were here about 1 minute, and like, I'm already getting this kind of hostility. Right. And I look at Eric Snyder, and it was around the time where, no offense, I know this is not sensitive, Dale Earnhardt had just died. Okay. And I was like, well, how do I retaliate with these rednecks by pulling on their strings? What am I going to do? So, Dale Earnhardt sucking cocks in hell. And that was like my go-to. And just like that, they all came up and started unplugging us. Get the fuck out of here! And like
amazing.
Me and Eric, like, I don't want to fucking play for you guys anyway. So we got our stuff. We started loading up into his truck. And as we're loading up the truck, the guy that said, "Put my dick up in your asshole," he comes out to the truck. And as we're putting it away, and like, you know, we're both like 21, and we're like, darn it, like that was our first little rock show. And he comes up to the car and he's like, "Hey, I told those guys to calm down. You guys should be able to play here. I don't want to." I'm like, "You're the guy that said put your dick up my asshole." But okay, I don't know. This is like an odd apology invitation. But thank you. But no, I think we're good. I think we realized we don't want to play, and I don't think you guys really want us to play. So I appreciate that.
Right.
He goes back inside, and I'm like, I said to Eric, like, that seems like a suspicious invitation to go back in. And so I walk around the bar and I look in the window, and it's like this small town mentality. Like, what were they trying to do to entertain themselves? They were all hiding behind the door, waiting to jump. You can see through the window. They're all hiding behind the door for us to re-enter this bar. And I was like, you guys are really gonna like. One, you're the one talking about putting dicks up assholes, and then I got nothing against Dale Earnhardt or anything. I was just trying to get back at you, but you guys are really ready to jump these guys or trying to give you a free concert.
Oh yeah.
So that was like our first debut show, and then the one thing that I told you about was, I usually don't do covers, but I was just trying to win over the locals with a Black Sabbath cover. But I started getting this idea around the same time of basically tuning my instruments a certain way and playing them rhythmically and percussively with having maybe like I would do stories and poems and give like a theatrical presentation. And I got to admit, it was very much inspired by like Sun Ra at the time. And we rented out the Iron Horse and put together a show, and it was one of our biggest shows. And the band at the time was called Love Beast. We would play like disturbing, weird love pop songs, all original. They were just like, they're kind of like pop songs, but they're also kind of raunchy and tragic. There was like a dark humor involved with them. And then we would also reserve like the second half of a set of just basically a free-form sound wave, collective noise, organized noise sound performance where I'm trying to include like a storyline or something like that. It wasn't just like random music. I was trying to create this a movie for your ears, you know. And we're playing at the Iron Horse, and I'm basically playing rubber chickens and a harp and a ukulele and playing the guitar with little pens and stuff stuck in there and megaphones telling a story. And my mom and dad were invited to the show. I guess they knew I was playing out these times. I was doing odd things at different coffee houses. And my mom, she got all dressed up, and my dad came out, and they their first time at the Iron Horse, and they're at a little table watching me play this really weird music in a hick bar. And some table right next to them, this lady, I didn't know this until like later. My dad told me this. The lady says to her husband, with her like mouth cupped by her hand but very loud, she turns and says, "This is the worst fucking shit I've ever heard." And my mom's all dressed up trying to support her son in her own hometown. And she just starts crying, and my dad walks her out with like a coat around her shoulders, like how James Brown like gets like you know the faint on stage, so I'm patting him up. And so I'm like, you know, I think I have like deer antlers on. I'm wearing a cape. I'm playing a rubber chicken into an amplifier, and I just see my mom crying, my dad patting her on the back, walking out in this hick bar. And I'm like, I look at Eric, and he's like, he sees it too. I'm like, in my heart, I feel like I think I'm doing something right, you know. If my debut show, my mom's left crying, getting patted on the back, walking out because of the opinion of irate local blue-collar Alberta's people, like, I maybe have a message to be said, you know? And since then, I've, like, worked on, how you say, a wider appeal for music, but that was, like, one of the first shows I ever had. And you could see that it was called Passage to Heaven because the bartender, the guy with the eye patch, just passed away that day. And his name was Jack, so we gave, like, what would sound like if Jack were to leave this earth and enter heaven. We were trying to give like what the 15 minutes of all that astral realm transitioning would be like for him to go through the Thanosphere and you know the stratosphere, the Thanosphere, then into outer space, into heaven. This is the soundtrack of what it sounds like of a soul ascending into the sky, and that was what we were trying to recreate musically.
They just weren't ready for it.
They were not ready for it. Yeah, although if Jack. If he could tell me from beyond the grave what he thought of it, that would have meant a lot too. But you know, he was a nice guy. He's a good bartender, really nice, interesting guy. But yeah, I meant it with love too. I wasn't trying to like make little of a dead guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. Dale Earnhardt is always the go-to. That is always I know so well, and I have like no shame of trying to come up with the next great Dale Earnhardt joke. Because it's such a hot button, like it's just like you just, amongst those people, you just can't. Somebody once, and they were serious about it, but it was like the 3 stations of the cross, rather than being the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, was Earnhardt, Elvis, and Jesus. Mm-hmm. And I heard somebody say that seriously. It's like, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
That's pretty.
Wow.
So I want to do a painting of those 3 guys in some form, like a religious type, almost like Sistine Chapel kind of thing of Earnhardt, Elvis, and Jesus, because that's a trifecta.
Well, generally, if one likes one, they might like the other 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a general way.
Maybe general,
yeah. I could see you liking Jesus and Elvis, and maybe not Dale, but
right.
But yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that probably go for all 3, but maybe you can customize just like 2
yeah,
or 3.
it's regional, I think.
Right.
Depending on where you are in the country.
Right.
Is where you're gonna have more of the trifecta than not.
What about like a DMX, Earnhardt, and Jesus?
That would be. I've yet to meet that person.
Okay.
But I want to.
Sure. A lot of bases covered on that one.
Yeah. 3 totally different worlds colliding there. No pun intended.
Yeah, sure.
But so you've also done a lot of performance art.
It depends on basically the scenario. I think some of the stuff you saw is when Allentown had asked for some artists to play on the sidewalk or some of these tents.
Okay.
It also has a lot to do with if I don't have a full band. If you don't have a full band, people don't. You could be the greatest classical guitarist, jazz guitarist, whatever. You're still a guy with a guitar. Nobody cares. Yeah. A crowd of people, you're not going to win them over. Right. But if you're wearing spandex and a flag, covering yourself in beans on stage, they're interested. They don't have to like it, but they're going to see what happens. Right. And so that's the gimmick that I try to use to win them over. And if I got their attention, maybe I'll throw a couple nice songs at them and then win them over by the end. Right. But that idea was, there's a few examples. I was working at a restaurant for a long time, and on the hour, every hour, I hear an Adele song, and I was pretty neutral on Adele, like the pop singer, and then after a while, I started like developing feelings about Adele because it was like, dude, why am I hearing this all the time on the hour, every hour? And I started realizing like I'm learning these songs through condensation, like I'm absorbing these songs, and I realized like I'm so tired of hearing Adele. I want to start being Adele. I want to be Adele, and I guess like South Park did the episode where Randy is Lord. I don't know if you've seen it, but it doesn't matter. But I had this idea of like, I want to start doing shows as Adele. So I did a couple open mics where I'd sign up as Adele, and I have like a bass player learn, and I would do like really like macho rock versions of Adele songs, and I'd be like, oi, oi, you wanker peasant blokes, I'm Adele, sandwich eater me is, you know, I'm masturbating with me Grammys, I got me Grammys, I got mayo on me Grammy, you know, like, she's just like a hideous, horrible, like, meatloaf of a woman, and it has nothing to do with the delicate, beautiful Adele that everyone's grown to love, so I would do these shows as Adele, and I realized I loved it, and I love when people didn't know me. They see me at the next open mic. Oh my God, Adele is here! I was like, oh my God, you like Adele? I'll do Adele. I'll do more Adele shows. Right. And so one of my favorite performances was for Arts Quest, maybe 4 years ago. I did the set with basically I had a framed picture of Adele in the front of the stage with incense and candles and like stolen mayonnaise packets from like Wawa, just lots of mayonnaise packets. And I said, we're going to try to channel and evoke the spirit of Adele by the end of this show. If you guys believe in it enough, we together, collectively, can hone in and summon the spirit of Adele, and she will appear magically on stage and perform the rest of this show. You guys believe in me? And be like, yeah, you guys want... And like throughout the show, I'd like, okay, we're going to take a moment to try to see if we can evoke the spirit of Adele. Adele needs mayonnaise. We need mayonnaise. And I'd hire like kids from the audience, kids like, and you know, the kids in the audience, come on up. And the kids would be encouraged to open a mayonnaise packet and cover Adele with mayonnaise on it as a ritual thing as we like all like bow and chant. And it was a beautiful thing. And it's on, you can see it on YouTube, but these kids are really into covering Adele with mayonnaise, and it's like so suggestive and wrong, but it's hilarious to me. And by the end of my, like, it was an hour-long set, first 40 minutes is like Nate Mark stuff, a little bit of banter and some Adele ceremonial evocation, and by the end I popped an Alka-Seltzer, did like a how do you say, like a seizure.
Yeah.
And oi, it is it's me, you peasant cunt blokes, you know, and it was so funny that like I didn't care. Like I'm not one for censorship, but I also don't want to like offend anybody if it's a public thing. Like saying the C word is kind of heavy, but I'm saying it as Adele, so it feels like it's okay because I'm an established artist and a Grammy winner, so I can say cunt bloke, you know, and I did the rest of the show as Adele, and people loved it. And it was just, to me, like, what would I want to see on stage? Like, I would love to see that. I would love to see a rock show that turns into like a voodoo type of ritual, and there's like mayonnaise and hysteria. And then we had Summon the Spirit that took over my body, and I become this mouth-foaming Adele on stage. And that was one of my more fonder examples of like a performance art. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone couldn't have picked a better target to parody, I don't think, than Adele, especially if when she was on the radio, I mean, she was everywhere.
Everywhere.
You couldn't escape it.
I tried, and I could not. And I was like a caged tiger pacing the perimeters of my cage and working this taco shop where it had Adele all the hour, every hour. So on an 8-hour shift, that's 8 Adele songs a day.
So I do think you hit on something that's important in terms of you have to be somewhat entertaining. Mm. And going back to what I said before of standing out. What gives you that inspiration? You talked a little bit about it. What gives you that inspiration to go up there and be so different?
Well, I'm not trying to be different. That's one thing. But also, as just whatever my sense of purpose is on Earth, on this borrowed time I have no kids, no degree, no real estate, no property, no money. My only sense of purpose is to get my music or whatever it is I have inside me to the world. That's the only gift I have. And if I don't do it, I failed tragically. So that's the reason I go up there. I want to be remembered fondly, and I want it to be enjoyed. I'm not trying to piss anyone off or annoy people or oust them from listening to the music. So I do want to win them over. But what's important to me is that I just have an uncompromised music that I give to the world, and I think that they're going to like it because too many people have celebrated mediocrity for far too long. There's so many, I don't know how to say it, like, it was like occurring to me, like if I heard like an Eric Clapton song or watched a John Wayne movie or something, it's like, these aren't, like, John Wayne can't stop being John Wayne, and Eric Clapton's not that good. And, like, I hear the same, like, people, like, celebrating mediocrity generation after generation of the same things repackaged and resold to a new generation. Yeah. And it's like, well, for every fucking Jimi Hendrix wannabe on stage, like, or Jim Morrison, I'll use this example. If he didn't die, he would just be an overweight, shirtless guy that everybody would stop caring about in the late 70s.
Yeah,
like, so
most
like,
of those people who died would have gone that way.
They're not going to live forever. And the music is basically a repackaged Mickey Mouse version of whatever they're trying to do to basically resell. Like, the hippie dream was a farce. People are just repackaging stuff. Mm-hmm. I think great music is timeless, and you are not going to find a price tag on it and be able to package it to the masses. So I don't really believe that I'll ever be very successful, like money-wise with it, but if I can get enough people to believe in it, that means a lot to me, and that's my only sense of purpose. So I don't go up there to try to be different. I want to be remembered sincerely by an uncompromised music that I have to offer, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm very lucky that I have one of my best friends, beautiful Vanessa Marciano. She's the best musician I've ever worked with, and producer, and she's worked with me on so many things. And then people like Nicholas DeSouza, who hosts the open mic. Yeah. He's a grateful host, a gracious, encouraging host. I've been to a lot of places where the host it's a pissing contest, or they don't want you to be up there, or they discourage you. You know, so there's a community up in Stroudsburg area of just exceptional musicians that are encouraging one another. And that means a lot to me, because I just played an open mic 2 Mondays ago, and did not feel that in Quakertown. I went to an open mic at a Quakertown, and they very much were resentful of me. And that's okay. You find out who these people are, but there's like a sense of envy, or it's like an old man blues club that if you go there and you're stirring up the honeypot, like, they just don't want you there. Like, you're too different. We're here to play covers. It's karaoke with instruments, and we don't want your original music in our bar. And, like, that's the vibe you get some places. Yeah. So I'm just trying to keep it real and just provide the world with new, uncompromised, unmitigated creative music.
What inspires your subject matter of tunes? Do they come from a personal place, your interests?
Well, for instance, one song is called 99.9 The Hawk, and it's sort of a spoof of like the phallic, macho shape and feel of like rock songs. And basically, again, like how I kind of resent like mainstream radio. Like radio is a mind control agent. It's no longer entertainment like it's supposed to be at one time. You're supposed to transmit music and ideas and news and all that stuff is out the window. Little fun fact, 1996, Congress passed the Clear Channel Act, where they bought up all the radio stations and TV stations. So at one time, radio stations were independently owned.
Right.
In 1995, for instance, if you called up and said to WZZO, I want to hear Zappo, Don't Eat the Yellow Snow, or Yes, Roundabout, ZZO, I don't know if you know ZZO, they're like, okay, we can play that song. Now they're contractually not allowed to take requests. They'll act like they're taking requests, but they're pulling from a bargain bin of the same 20 names over and over again because it's basically just a contractual bargain bin of people that don't own their own music. Like Prince, for instance. Prince was owned by Warner Brothers, and Prince says, I don't want to be owned by Warner Brothers. And Warner Brothers is like, too bad, you're Prince. We own you. And Prince is like, well, I'm going to make 20 more albums as the artist or the symbol or whatever. Prince continually made great albums. You'll never hear more than 3 Prince songs on the radio because it's Warner Brothers owning Prince. You'll never hear independently owned music. Any music you hear on the radio is stuff that's not owned by the artists themselves, generally speaking. And it's basically a monopoly of the same songs, and I think it's to groom and condition people into hearing music as background. Because if you hear something that stimulates you, you're going to be more inspired to think. You know?
Exactly.
So when you're actually on autopilot, like the movie They Live, it's like they're transmitting mind-altering background noise
tones,
to keep you occupied. And like I thought to myself, like I was in a red light and I looked over and somebody's like tapping their thumb to like Footloose. Footloose. It's like, who really in 2020 wants to hear Footloose? 2021, like who's really wants to hear Footloose that bad?
Right.
But the truth is, that person on their same route to work every day is going to hear Footloose every day that they're driving on the hour, every hour. And it's a mind control agent. They're not supposed to feel stimuli in the sense that music's designed to give it to you. And one of those things is from the Clear Channel Act, when all the radio stations are bought up, it's basically a mind control agent. So to further push people into hearing music, not as a commodity for art, it's a background thing to shop to. It's a soundtrack for your shopping experiences. And if you hear something new and unusual, you'll be forced to react, and it'll put chemicals in your brain that inspire creation. And they don't want that. They want you to be a sleepwalking consumer, and that's the function of buying up all the radio stations. So 99.9 The Hawk is a song I have where it says, dancing women, beer cans, we got imported cheese and some mighty fine ham. You know, what I'm saying is, but ham is a processed filler, you know?
Yeah.
The music that you're hearing broadcasted is filler. It's cheese. It's filler. It's just a big macho self-congratulatory pat on the back to machismo. Just everything on music is dick-shaped. The guitars are dick-shaped. There should be nothing... Like, there's so many different guitars out there. They celebrate the same 3 or 4 ones. Most of them are dead, and you hear the same music regurgitated over and over again. So the average person, once upon a time, like, was exposed to so much more music, and now the frame of reference is getting smaller and smaller and smaller that the average person won't even know like who these people are. You're an artist. Like, I profoundly was blown away by the concept of Andy Warhol just recently. What he was prophesizing by repainting soup or whatever is like, this is no longer art. I'm just mass producing images that you're just going to blindly accept because you just want to see familiarity. Like, I was at a warehouse and I saw an old Spanish lady wearing a Ramones shirt, and I'm like, hey, you like the Ramones? Like, well, that's cool. She has no idea who the Ramones are. Right. It's just a shirt you can get at Kmart. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's like a suburban kid's wearing Bob Marley. He has no idea about the Rasta struggle or the history of Jamaica or whatever. Right. It's Mickey Mouse. Bob Marley doesn't want to be a Kmart shirt. You know? They're the Mickey Mouse versions of the actual artist, you know? Mm-hmm. The Ramones, whatever punk meant to anybody, it's not the same anymore. Oh, it's a packaged Mickey Mouse Happy Meal.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. That's one of the songs. So what inspires a lot of the subject matter is I try to basically entertain you with humor, but I try to plug in some sort of I don't know, a message or a metaphor, but without trying to be pretentious about it. Like the song Harambe. I don't know if you know the song Harambe. Yes. like two things about Harambe is like on face value, it's a funny, dark humored song about killing a diamondback gorilla who tried to save a kid, you know?
Right.
And it's a funny song, but it's like also I was trying to show off a reggae side to me with singing and playing and that. But the chorus is, you were kidnapped from thousands of miles away. That could be a metaphor for the African American of the Americas, you know? Like Bob Marley also sang about it, but I'm saying you were a displaced person that's put into a cage for others' exploitative use. You were the property of someone, and they're acting like they did you a favor. Like, we're not just talking about diamondback gorillas. And then the next line is, you were killed for a life you tried to save. We can also say that that's the message of Jesus. He was trying to reform Judaism or make a little bit more equality for the people of the Holy Land at that time. You know, he was killed for trying to help people. And so I'm like plugging this deep message under the guise of it's a song about a killed gorilla, you know? And if you don't want to overanalyze it, it's still a fun song about a diamondback gorilla. But if you want to talk about basic human rights and struggles, like there's a message behind that as well. So I try to sneak deeper things into that kind of stuff. The song Bath Salt Rock was inspired by, in Bethlehem, I wrote that 5 or 6 years ago. There was some college kids at Lehigh campus that were doing bath salt, and they bludgeoned a friend of theirs to death. I don't know what they were doing, but they're just acting up, and somebody just starts beating the other guy in the head, kills him. They roll him up in a carpet, and they drive him and drop him off in the Poconos. And this was talked about in the local news, that some kids killed a kid, rolled him up in a carpet, and dropped him off because of bath salt. And I thought to myself, and I sound like a square, but growing up, you know, I used to do a lot of acid, a lot of weed and stuff like that. I am not an advocate of, like, celebrating drugs. Like, I'm a big fan of personal choices and freedoms, but you're not going to tell me that drugs are great or drugs are doing a good thing. I know, like, the Bill Hicks quote about all the great music that begat drugs, but for me, I think drugs are skeezy. I think drugs are skeezy, and I'll do them. I like them, but I don't want to celebrate them. I don't want to find a community that celebrates them. It's a personal, private matter for me. And then you talk about stuff like bath salt. Like, these are also drugs. People are also doing drugs, you know? That does have repercussions to it. And I thought to myself, like, it's so fun to hear songs about weed and beer, or Sir Nose Devoid of Funk celebrating cocaine for a whole decade. Like, I love that album. I love the music. But I felt like nobody has done a feel-good song about bath salt consumption. And so I was, like, fresh from the press. My neighbors bludgeoned each other and rolled one up in a carpet. And I was like, the world doesn't have a bath salt song. I want to make a bath salt song. And that was an example as to me trying to package something that was not yet done. Same thing with the Segway. People talk about my Segway song. There's songs about the motorcycle, the magic carpet, songs about being on a boat, songs about being in a hot rod, you know? But the Segway is like that cheesy little R2-D2 like thing that you would like go up and down on the strip mall, you know what I mean? So I was like, I'm trying to make a song, but it's like product placement. To me, it's like funny to sing about product placement. I guess that's what I'm like looking for. I want to be the guy that thought of a song, of a concept. We all understand what it is, but no one has articulated it into music just yet. And so I'm just trying to basically, I guess, kind of, in good nature, spoof Americana. And that's like, I'm speaking of myself as an American. That's my frame of reference.
Gotcha.
And I think America is saturated with basically like product placement, and everything deserves a jingle. And I want to give these unsung things, the gorilla, the Segway, bath salt. I want to provide the jingle, the theme song to these concepts that are not yet around. I can't sing about my girlfriends or sing about the government. It's been done. I have done it. But I don't think you really want to hear about my feelings or my opinions on the world. You know what I mean? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But everyone else is doing that. Like, and I don't want to open up to you. Like, if you want to be my friend, I'll talk about my personal traumas, but I don't really feel like singing about it.
Right.
And if I do, it's going to be like disguised as something else. Like I have a Bigfoot love song, and that was written after a girl cheated on me and broke my heart. And it was like a forbidden love song, and it was like my way of coping. And it's a very effective song, and sometimes I get a tear in my eye because not because I'm thinking about the unrequited love of a Bigfoot. It's because of a love that I lost. You know? So that's how that works. And bottom line is, I want it to be entertaining. I want people to be entertained, and not because it's like contrived or forced. I don't want people to feel like I'm just squeezing out if you listen to like a Weird Al song, a Weird Album, like maybe there's a couple space fillers on there, or you know, I mean, I love Weird Al, I love Ween. Like, I know I'm not the first to do like funny songs or spoofing songs, but I just basically want to have a checklist of every genre and every topic, and basically create something that's entertaining and something for everybody. I don't want to just pigeonhole a sound to somebody, because I'll do like a reggae song next to like a doom metal song, next to a pop song, next to something that sounds like jazzy to me. I like the pie chart spinning so that you, by the end of a Nate Marks album, you still don't know what you heard. You heard it all, but you don't know what it is you heard. If somebody says, what's the album like? What's Nate Marks' music like? You're going to have to use like 10 words to describe it. Unless people are just like inarticulate and it's like weird. It's funny. You know, some people might just say that, but I hope to stand out as far as something like that goes.
And I do, that does go back, you talk about the homogenized pop music and radio music.
And no, we're living in a melting pot of society, or supposedly people should be exposed to this, and by now have found some version of rap or bluegrass or jazz that they can get or like, you know? There's no reason you have to absolutely refuse a sound or a tone because for some reason we're exposed to so much. It's like you're losing the picture if you can only eat toast and butter. Like if you can't put something on that, you know, you're losing something. That's why my favorite format, as far as like what gets me off as an artist watching other art forms, is people aren't aware of how much they consume intellectually through a movie. You know what I mean? If you walk into a room and you're just Joe Schmo or whatever your background is, you immediately walk into a room, it's like, this is hip-hop or this is metal. Right. And like, okay, that's a big binary. I'm in it or I'm out, or I don't get it, or I'm on it, or I'm working with it, you know? Mm-hmm. But when you present a movie to somebody, the average person sitting through a movie, they have visual poetry. They have orchestra. They're composing music. They have fashion. There's lighting. There's a storyline, a Greek tragedy played out. They're actually taking in all these artistic elements from so many things. The average person doesn't want to watch a painting or read a poem, or watch a Greek tragedy or listen to instrumental music. But you will sit through a movie taking that all in, and that all helps as a vehicle for pushing whatever plot line it is, I'm talking about like a movie, like a film. Like obviously some people just want to watch special effects and things blowing up. Like that's a whole other type of movie. But I mean to say the average person unwillingly digests so much art from a film that the average person will not watch a painting or listen to a poem or study Greek tragedy or appreciate how a vintage curtain looks, But when you watch it in a movie, you're taking all that in. Yeah. And you don't unknowingly taking that all in. Like I feel like if I had the resources and financing, I would want to present a movie because I have lots of stories and jokes that I also want to package in there. But at the same time, I want it to look a certain way, feel a certain way. I want the dialogue to have a certain way. I want my own music in there. And I could basically give you 5 to 10 to 20, maybe 50 art forms that you're just going to sit through and take because you're sitting in a chair watching a movie, Like, movies to me is the one-stop shop for the average person unknowingly consuming art. Because it's entertainment. That's the thing I'm relating back to providing music for people. It's if I disguise it as entertainment, they forget they're taking in art. Because art sounds vulnerable. You're sensitive. You're maybe less a man or less a person for allowing yourself to feel. And we're all creatures of habit, and we all have our own prejudices and pretensions. Like, sometimes I'll be at an open mic, and someone's like, next person up doing poetry. In my heart, I'll be like, I'm probably not going to enjoy this because I've sat through so much self-absorbed, bat-packing poetry. And then I'm like, oh my God, I was moved. You entertained me. That was profound. That was funny. It was dark or it was sad, but you won me over. And I went in there not knowing that I was going to like your poem because of how many people ruining it for me, and relating it back to Marshall Allen and Okra. Like, it's not the poet's fault that so many poets are basically pretentious or self-absorbed people, There are some good poets out there, but if you've ever been to a poetry reading, it's like a circle jerk. It's like a circle jerk of sadness. It really is. It's hard for me to sit through. I've sat through it, and it's not for me. And I do write poetry. I enjoy poetry. I'd sooner narrate it to an odd soundscape or put it into a song. That's how I like to get it across. But I love poetry, actually.
I guess it's just a matter of putting it out there, whatever it may be.
Sure. There's all kinds of people. So for instance, playing out in Stroudsburg at that Scioto open mic, the diversity and variety of music and the caliber of skill. In the Poconos, I played out in Philly, and I've heard less variety and less, you know what I mean? And we're talking about the Poconos. And I know a lot of these guys are from New York originally, so I don't know how they ended up over here or whatever, but the fact that you're finding that much variety and culture and caliber of musicianship out here, it's like, it really says something. Like, just because you're in a city doesn't mean you're better or, You know what I mean? Like having a densely populated area. People are now like glued to their phones or glued to their TV screens.
Right.
It doesn't mean that there's like more of a thriving art scene. It's kind of sad.
If anything, there's less now.
Yeah.
Specifically in the cities because of just corporatization.
Right.
When I take trips down to New York, each trip is slowly more, Walgreens Bank, Starbucks, Walgreens, Rite Aid Bank, Starbucks, McDonald's, and any of like the independent places, they're just about gone. And I think that the fleeing from those places, because musicians, artists, they can't hack it down there anymore.
Right.
There's no more village. There's no more affordable section that might be dirty and slummy and artsy. Like it doesn't exist. It's all gentrified. So those artists are having to go to different places.
I'm going to plug my friend band Rubik's Cubes from Stroudsburg. Vanessa
yes, they are.
and Rob Shepard's from Bethlehem, and they're probably my favorite. I don't want to say local band because that sounds like diminutive,
right?
But new band. Like they are literally what I guess what people thought the Talking Heads sounded like in 1977 or something like that.
Right.
To me, is like the structure, the words, the style, the production. It's like this is a new sound. I'm a big fan of that. Some other bands, the Holy Roasters. The guy, it's more like a conventional rock, but Jake, I forget his last name, but he's an exceptional guitarist. And Dan Rivera on drums. Like, there's just really good musicians out there. I just started playing at a flea market open mic on Fridays. If you come out, I work at a flea market, and one of the best bass players I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, on stage or anywhere. Like, I've met Les Claypool. I've seen, like, Primus 10 times, This guy blows Les Claypool out of the water, and he's a guy in his late 60s. I don't know if you know Trout Mask Replica, the Captain Boomerang. He could play that. Like, he says he broke it down part by part. He knows how to play through the Trout. Like, who takes the time to... That's like a lost cause. Who are you running over with that? But he's there every week, and I'm just hearing him play with everybody. He was, like, on an Alice Cooper tour. And, like, doesn't mean shit. I'm not like a starstruck guy, but he was good enough to play with an established rock star. And he says it was, like, mediocre playing. Like, he was just holding back, playing on a 80s Alice Cooper record. But, again, out of the pockets of the hidden caves of the universe come some amazing musicians just waiting to be discovered. And it's like, who's out there? I want to collaborate with that guy. That guy's not meant to be playing covers or meant to be a backup band for a washed-up 80s singer. No offense, Alice Cooper, but 1989 Alice Cooper, this guy deserves better than 1989 Alice Cooper, But I'm just saying that there are places where I'm finding these great musicians, and you're not going to find them on the radio. You're not going to find them. You're going to find them, and you're looking. Like, that's it. Right. I just like this thing. Not to sound preachy, but somebody was once telling me, "Oh man, they don't make any good movies anymore. There's no good music anymore." It's like. When I hear people saying that, to me, it looks like a guy staring at a McDonald's menu and saying, they don't make any good sandwiches anymore. That's because you're staring at a McDonald's menu the whole time. You're not looking. Go to your local bar. Go to your local coffee house. Go to your local house show. You'll find them. They're out there. Maybe not as much as you want, but there's lots of imitators and emulators, but there are creators out there. When you find them, give them the credit where it's due. Give them a hug. Buy their stuff. Like, let them know that they exist. Because there's like moments of doubt I have. I walked right off stage 2 weeks ago because I thought I gave a half-assed concert, and I felt ashamed because I don't want to waste my time or their time.
Right.
I take it too personal to go up there and do a half-assed show. It saddens me to no end. But yeah, there's great music all over the place. You just have to have the appetite for finding it. Personally, do you know of any other rock bands in the Pocono area that are doing something different? Because I'm from the Allentown area. I really only can say I know Goat Wizard and the Rumpelstiltskins, and like those are the two bands that stick out that are like sticking out, and everybody else they're good at what they do, but you're already an established genre of rock or whatever, and you're standing on the shoulders of your inspiration, echoing whatever it is you learned, Right. I want to hear somebody do something new, shake it up a bit.
Yeah, I've not heard of them. I don't know of any.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that way. Even like a good representation as to how the decline of art or music is realized is the closing of guitar shops. Once upon a time, everybody wanted to be a guitar player or something, which it's good, but at the same time, there's maybe a surplus of guitarists, but there's a generation of people that had played Guitar Hero that have no idea. They're good at Guitar Hero, but they have no idea that 3 chords aren't that hard to play. A blues scale is not that hard to play if you care. You know? Like, you could have wasted all that, you could have used all that time to learn actually how to play guitar.
Right.
There should not be that much of a void of musicians or inspiration. I think people want, the basic human condition is you want to be liked and accepted. So when you enter a room and do something unusual, there's a chance that people won't understand you. And that's a fear I think a lot of people have as an artist. They're afraid of standing out. And us as a society have to maybe take a step back and say, if we don't get you, doesn't mean we don't like you. We're just not ready yet. Maybe we have to take a moment to process this. Keep being weird and annoy me until I get you. And us as a society, maybe we have to embrace the orphans of music or these mutants of music and that are coming out and presenting a new form of music for us.
Yeah.
I love hearing something that upsets my senses. I like noise. I like it when I like hearing people boo, you know? I sometimes feel like...
Well, it's an you're evoking something.
I don't think anybody has a mild opinion on my music. I know people that don't like it, but I don't think I have like a mild... People will get a mild opinion on it because I'm doing something that's maybe a bit extreme for the average consumer.
Right.
I don't know where the artists are, but I hope they come out soon.
Yeah. We're pretty much like the only ones in our area, I think.
What do you... I've seen you play, right? I've seen you... Yeah, right on.
Yeah, you know, we all have like a bunch of songs we all do.
And Isaac just put out a new music video.
Cool.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Plug him.
What's it called?
It's Under the Grid. Old King Moon is like the name, I guess.
Is the name Onto the Grid a declaration of your presence? I'm now here. Here I am.
Yeah. I'm going under Old King Moon. It's the name. It's just something.
So what do you think? This is macro question. What do you feel like we could move back into a good direction? Or do you feel like it may be too late in terms of like a mainstream people being back into the arts, back into live music, possibly back into galleries? Do you think we've gone too far into technological of things being on the phone or on the computer?
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that. As a cynic, I don't think so. I think we're going to be heading towards a really dark digital age in 100 years. Humans might not be recognizable. I think AI is a realistic thing. I think people are going to be like more plugged into their phones, and if there's like a chance that they can get it like connected into their body where they could blink and take a snapshot of something, like I think people would be accept that. The phone is already an extension of their body. People get anxiety when it's not there or present. So I think 100 years from now, people are going to be needing the phone like they think they need electricity or how we have. We're already there. I don't think they need it as an outlet to expose themselves to things. I think it's really a tool of vanity. You want people to look at you. You want to be liked. It's sort of like how one would decorate their high school locker. You're like, these are the things I'm into. This represents me. These are images that I connect with. So people are no longer like the entity they were born as. They're like the straw man and collage of symbols that they choose to represent themselves with. That I think that's where art might get lost because everybody considers himself a podcaster or an artist or worthy of some stranger's time. Look at me, here I am, here's my opinions on the matter. People not qualified to talk about any political movement or scientific investigation. People not qualified at all to talk about anything. Their social justice insights from their couch, from the safety of their sheltered lives. You can't talk about other people's revolutions or other people's struggles. I mean, you can, but you're not qualified really to talk about it. You're just one other person with a social media calculator pouring your opinions into the ethereal world, and people love that exchange. It's an echo chamber. You want to be surrounded by people agreeing with you. I don't think that it's healthy. I don't think that there is really a great revolution at stake. I think that people are, like, let's say, the Black Lives Movement in recent times. I think a lot of people with well-intentioned ideas want to be sooner recognized as, this is me, I'm progressive, look at me at this rally or at this movement, rather than benefiting a movement. You want to be recognized for participating rather than collectively pushing for a movement. You know, I don't know if that's like a good example, but I'm just saying people would sooner say, look at me, I'm here, rather than worry about the actual revolution. They want to be the showcase of it or something like that. I don't know what the future holds, but I think people need to put down their phones and leave their house and maybe celebrate arts and friends and each other as they used to for thousands and thousands of years.
Hopefully it won't take like a solar flare or some shit to like, kind of kick it into gear. But I mean, that would do it probably, Like, oop, all gone. Just
I would love that.
Electromagnet over everything, yeah.
I'm hoping that the internet crashes and see how people deal with that, because people might have to start reading again or going out to shows again, I'm like a human like the next person. I enjoy people watching my stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
I enjoy people liking my sandwiches. I do enjoy the attention I get. Right. But what I am, just as an artist, I'm on there just to entertain and to talk about sandwiches. I'm not trying to talk about identity politics or any sort of thing. I'm there to make jokes and share music. That's my purpose on life. But I feel too many people are basically using it as a vehicle just to share their unqualified, volunteered opinions on things they don't understand.
Yeah.
And yet here we are talking on a podcast about the dangers of the digital age.
Right.
That's it, yeah.
So we're inside the cage talking about the cage.
Yeah. Well, it's at least we're aware of the cage.
Yeah,
Some people aren't aware of the cage.
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up before cell phones, so I do remember what that was like, and I do remember guitar shops and record shops and more bookshops, and I think a lot of people are getting lost to it. But there's always going to be somebody out there that's trying to break the mold. I feel like it'll be met with much more resistance than ever before.
Yeah.
Of being new and different.
How much did your growing up? How much did it affect your art?
My parents were very not supportive of my art.
Okay.
They thought I was gay for it, actually, to be honest with you. And I never liked sports. I like to draw a lot. My first girlfriend at 16 was to prove I wasn't gay. So that's a true fact.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, you're an artist. Before I was into music, I was really into drawing, and I'm a good artist. I consider myself to be anyway. But yeah, I was very much discouraged from art, so I didn't really develop any more skills or try to prove it. And I wasn't drawing for anybody but other than myself. I just like doodling. I like comic books. I like cartoons. And I like, like monsters. I was really fascinated by like drawing hideous monsters and aliens and stuff like that. So I grew up in a little suburban corner of a country town, Albertus, and my mom and dad were, they're good people, but they basically did not want somebody weird or different. My dad was pretty Christian growing up, and I would feel it was repressive, not being able to be myself, and and also I didn't know what being gay was, but I was accused of it as a kid, not knowing what that even meant. You know what I mean? Like being called a slur when you're a kid, and I don't even know what that word means. So that probably helped me shape like being nicer to people, like learning empathetically how you should be nice to people. Like that helps, and maybe trying to express and enjoy each other's differences and expression. Like that's important. And if I see like a kid that feels like he's not having somebody tell him he's doing a good job, like I just want to like, hey, you're doing a good job. Good for you. People do need to see this. Keep going. Maybe not anyone but someone soon will discover that you're doing great. And that's important. So growing up, when I talk about the Miles Davis thing, but like music and art were kind of like repressed growing up in my household. My mom and dad, they loved the same like three bands, and they were always listening to the Beatles, Fleetwood Mac, and that was that. But like my dad had a double side to him, where he was like a real Bible thumper, and then the other side of him was like a big pothead. My mom and dad are huge potheads, and they liked listening to like 60s and 70s rock. And I hated church so much. My dad was kind of mean about stuff growing up, that I had this bad resentment towards God and the church, that I used to have to go like door to door handing out Bible pamphlets with my dad, and like the church didn't even want him handing out Bible pamphlets. My dad was really into evangelism and going door to door. Like it's kind of cultish and I think rude and imposing upon you're going to someone's door and pushing faith into their home. That's mean. I think that's cold and dirty. But I hated church so much growing up. It had a lot to do with my upbringing. Wasn't like anything personal against the Bible or the church itself, that I peed in the baptism pool twice at the Church of Christ in Allentown, and once was to prove to myself that like I'm not afraid of God, and I hate church, and I hated my family, or I hated my dad, and so I peed into the baptism. It's like the church we went to was like a baptism by immersion. You have to go fully into the water, come out.
Okay.
And so they had like a little like jacuzzi in the church, and like you go by, and I peed into it. And that was the first time I peed into it. And then a little down the road, I don't know, like if I was taking a beating or something, and something went sour in my childhood, and I was like, I'm peeing in that baptism pool again after church. I hate these things, you know. And I peed into it a second time, and I'm a superstitious person. I got out of it lately, but I kind of think that I put a curse upon me, because I think shortly after that, my first girlfriend, the night I was going to lose my virginity, got hit by a train, and I feel that maybe peeing into a place of worship might have summoned some bad energy, and rightfully so. You shouldn't go peeing into baptism pools, even if your dad's mean to you. You shouldn't pee into baptism pools. It's not everyone else's fault. So maybe I had summoned the wrath of God through a stream of piss.
So did they catch you?
Nobody caught me.
Okay.
Nobody caught me, yeah. But, yeah.
Just the big guy. He sees
Just the big guy was watching. He was taking notes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, when I first saw the orb in Lockridge Park, that my first reaction was to say, this. I'd already peed in the baptism pool twice. But when I saw the orb come out of the ground, my first thing that I say was like, thank you, God! Thank you for showing me you exist! You're a part of my life! I get it now! Thank you! You know, and I took that upon me, that was a greater power's way of letting me know that he's there, or they are there, whatever, I don't know who God is, that God's there, not only there, involved and curious or interested in my existence. Maybe not everybody's being revealed these great things, but I had seen a sloth and an orb and a UFO, and when my girlfriend got hit by a train a week later, she said my name in a dream. And as soon as, this is like a week after she got hit by a train in 1999, I woke up when I hear in a dream, Nate. As soon as I hear this in my bed, I woke up, and down the hall, a picture falls off the wall in the bathroom and shatters. And my mom and dad run out, what was that? What was that? And I just lay there like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say, like, dead girlfriend said my name, and then a picture fell off the wall, you know? Right. I just pretend like I didn't hear anything, I just lay there. But I don't tell too many people that, but I believe that I don't know why I am like selected to be exposed to that phenomenon. I'm grateful for it, but that's something I did take witness to, and I gathered that God is alive and well, and I'm glad for it, and I do pray, and I try to count my blessings, and want to have a better feeling that we're here on we're here for a good reason, and I don't think God is love. God is everything, all the elements. You know, like I could get hit by a bus and get cancer. God is just as capable of those things, as well as, you know, giving us each other love. But I do know that we're supposed to be here for some sort of fulfilled purpose. Some are procreating, some are just to have diseases named after them. I just think that I'm here to make music and art and movies and tell some jokes, and that's what I'm here for. And I hope I'm doing a good job at that, but that's what I'm here for. So I forget what that was. I was rambling off about growing up as an artist. Yeah, so if I'm a little bit weird, it was because I was met with the face of adversity growing up, where I was in a repressive town that did not celebrate unusual arts and music, and my mom and dad certainly did not embrace it. And the first time they ever saw my show, my mom left crying, and I think it helped me develop who I am right now. You know, I'm glad for it. It's a good thing. Yeah.
And it's in a sideways way. You know, you're lucky to have found that, because a lot of people don't find what they feel their purpose may be. Whether it's diluted by the average get a job, 9-to-5 thing, or it's suppressed and they just go with it. You know, someone could be artistically inclined and they get suppressed and they give up on it.
Right.
So, you know, it's awesome to have been able to find that.
Yeah, you know? Thanks, man. And the last, to put it this way, I think in like 20 years, more or less since I was 18, 20, in 20 years, I had like 4 jobs. It's like 5 years per job. And in the last 2 years, I've had about 15 jobs, because I've gotten to the point in my life where if I need a day off, I'm taking it off because I need to play music, like or have a comedy show or something. Like I prioritize my art over my employment, you know? And I realize if no one else believes in me, how am I going to believe in me? I've turned down shows opening up for friends' bands in like New York City or whatever like that because I had a warehouse job or a video store job and I had some sort of unhealthy loyalty to these jobs. And now where I'm at is that I prioritize me. If they do not accept that, then they'll just have to find a replacement for me. But I've had a guy like we're saying, he's like breaking it down. It's like, Nate, we need a dishwasher here every Saturday, and I'm like, there are more dishwashers in the world. I understand if you want to find another dishwasher that's not Nate Marks. By all means, find that dishwasher. He'll come and go, and I'm a good worker. I'm going to speak plainly to you. I'll give you advance time when I need it, but I'm taking these nights off, and I need these nights off. And the guy could not wrap his head around it. It's like, your dream is running a restaurant. You're doing a good job at it. You want to have a reliable staff. I get that. My dream is not being your dishwasher. My dream. You're lucky that I'm here. I'm doing your dishes, and you're paying me crappily for it. I do not resent it. You're going to get the best 100% work out of me when I'm here. But if I need time off, understand that that's my purpose in life. You run a restaurant. I run an 8 Marks art campaign, So that's where I'm at. And I have a job right now working at a flea market video store at Video Bonanza, Q-Mart. And they're wonderful people to work for, and I'm very proud to work there. And they're accommodating when I need time off. And I appreciate that.
Where is this flea market?
Q-Mart is in Quakertown, Bucks County,
Okay.
down 309. I highly recommend it. Friday, Saturday, Sundays. The video store's been there for 30 years. And Q-Mart is really neat. Like, flea markets are neat. They're amazing to me. It's also kind of like a carny parade. Like, you always find, like, mullet hunting, or there's, like, always, like, a dwarf, like, daily you see, like, a dwarf walking around. Like I don't know where these people are coming out of the woodwork, but it's unusual. Like, you see who's, like, shopping at the big mall in town. It's, like, the other unsung heroes. I don't know where they're coming from, but there's so many unique characters out there. And I love it. I love flea markets. I love walking around. I love looking at old people's junk. I love trying new foods from around the world. And there's just a lot of interesting lifestyles to be discovered there. And there's an open mic at the place called the Rock Den, run by a guy named Dan Taylor. And it's a fantastic open mic in a flea market at a little instrument shop. And that's every Friday. And because I get out of work around 7:30 or 8, I'm there every week. And I'm making nice with the flea market intercom announcer lady. She's a very lovely lady. And so, like, I just say, hey, I'm going to bring you a cupcake and a coffee. Can you just say, Nate Marks and the Squirrel Trappers in 10 minutes, to try to jazz up. I feel great. It's like a wrestler entering the ring. Like, I'm trying to do my own promotion through a flea market intercom. It's never before I've been done. I'm treating it like I'm playing out a Rockefeller Center, but it's at a flea market. I just want to promote it. I'm going to actually rent out a big room at the Q-Mart where I'm going to have a few bands and some of my favorite comedian friends. And I'm going to have music and comedy. And because it's such a spacious thing, I also want to showcase art, such by yourself, Albert Shivers, my friend Joey Tepedino, and try to get other artists, similar to the Rubik's Cube House Party show. But I want it to be like a one-stop shop for the senses, like art, music, comedy, entertainment. And maybe I'll have like a sandwich seminar, like put together a sandwich for everybody. Like I just one-stop shop for everything I care about, because I'm going to rent out this spot and I want everybody to know my values and the values of my friends and fellow artistic allies, and everybody can come out and find something new and different, because you cannot sit around waiting for invitations to like, hey, I want to hear weird music. I want to see art. I want to hear comedy, You're going to be sitting around a long time waiting for that. So I highly recommend anybody out there listening to this, or anybody that cares, if you're an artist or musician and you're feeling like you're not getting the rightful amount of attention, stop waiting and stop looking. Stop waiting and start looking, and rent out your own thing. Promote your own thing. Get out there and make it happen, because then you'll find that you will be discovered because you put yourself out there, not waiting to be discovered. So it's maybe maybe it's like a pipe dream, but me renting out a corner of a flea market. It's some way of trying to get myself out there. And flea market people are my kind of people, They're my target demographic. I just want flea market people to follow me around. I want to be actually going on a flea market tour. If this thing works out, I want to rent out flea markets across the nation and put together out the flea market tour.
That'd be awesome.
Hell yeah.
And just call it that.
The flea market tour, yeah. Flee your minds, or keep on rocking in the flea world. I have different ideas for how to pitch it as a catchphrase, but I think it'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. And there's tons of good bands.
Sure. Next Friday, if you guys are interested, come on down. It's at the Q-Mart, and it's a really nice open mic. You meet some really great people, and if you're looking for a great bass player, there's a guy named James Kleinman, who's an exceptional bass player, and I've never seen a better bass player. And my goodness, I found one at a flea market. How about that? Yeah.
What time is it?
6 to 9. 6 to 9.
Okay.
And if you like movies, which I know you do, Putney Swopes, come by the Video Bonanza. They really specialize in rare and obscure, oddball movies. They have basically every movie you're looking for. And I love the job. I love the place. I'll work anywhere, but it's the only job I had where I'm an expert, you know? Mm-hmm. Someone will come in there and say, hey, I'm looking for Werner Herzog movies. Like, I can talk about Werner Herzog all day. You want to talk about, you know what I mean? Or people come in there asking about, Brian Usna horror movies or Screaming Mad George special effects or what have you. It's like, I love talking about movies. Even if I don't care about Sandra Bullock, you ask me, I can name 20 Sandra Bullock movies. I don't know why. I just love movies. I'm a seasoned video store clerk. I can go on all day about Sandra Bullock. It's just I have a job where I'm an expert. I couldn't have that at a warehouse or at a restaurant. I can talk about meatballs and hot dogs all day, but man, I love talking about movies. I love being around movies, and it's a dream job for me. So I'm actually at a job where I'm an expert at something, and I've never, ever had that experience before. So that's also a big perk of working at a flea market video store.
Yeah, the store sounds awesome. It's
amazing. Video Bonanza. You'll love it.
What are some, if you were to have some oddball movies that you would throw out into the world?
That people maybe not have ever seen?
Seen or know of. Like we were talking earlier about Putney Swope. Mm-hmm. I stumbled across that movie because of one of the actresses in it. She's one of the women. It wasn't a big role, but she was one of the women who was jumping up and down the airplane sequence. Yeah, she's one of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I had a crush on her when she was on Sanford and Son. I was a little kid.
Oh, I didn't know she was on that. Okay.
She played Lamont's for season 5. Lamont had a fiance. Didn't work out.
Okay.
And she played Lamont's fiance.
Wow.
And I was all about her. Fast forward to later in the internet, she was in Ganja and Hess. The Beast Must Die. She was in the second Blob movie. She was in a fantastic movie called Lord of Shango that I definitely recommend. Like a 70s voodoo movie. But it was very well done for that kind of a movie. It didn't feel too hokey at all. It was really well done. But that's how I discovered Putney Swope.
Okay.
And I watched it and I was like, this movie is fucking amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and going back to Sanford and Sons, people ask me, because I do stand-up comedy. I don't think you've ever seen it, but people ask me, what's my favorite comedian? And I'm always at a loss of words, because I really don't know how to, narrow it down, but I think my favorite stand-up routine of all time is Red Fox. I don't know what nightclub it is, but he polished it up for an HBO special. It was in, the late 70s, early 80s. But Red Fox's comedy, I think, is my favorite comedy of all time. It's the one-liners, traditional, ba-dum-ching things, but it's also dirty. But then it's he does it in a way that sounds wholesome. The way he, she said, I want you to fuck me real good, make it hurt. So I fucked her real good, and I picked up a rock and hit her with it. It's just a classic. It's kind of dirty, but I feel touched and it's warming, but I love Red Fox, and I'll check out some of those references. I'm not familiar with that actress, but
have you ever heard the Red Fox joke? So I'm going to butcher it. I'm sorry, Red Fox, but 2 women walking down the street, and one woman sees her husband coming out of a florist with a bunch of flowers, and she says to the other woman, she goes, oh, Jesus, here's my husband coming out of the florist with flowers. Now I'm going to have to keep my legs up in the air for him for 2 weeks. And the other woman says, why don't you just buy a vase?
Great, yeah.
That joke, did it for me in Red Fox.
Yeah, sure.
I've been, trying to collect the records and find them ever since.
Yeah, they're great, man. They really are great. You don't hear that on the show is beautiful, but it's rated G or PG.
Yeah.
They definitely toned it down for that.
Yeah.
As far as movies that I'm into, that maybe the average movie lover maybe not heard of, I'm really into stuff that's been, for whatever reason, out of print or banned. It fascinates me why things are forever buried in some celluloid vault somewhere. One movie that I'm obsessed with is Ken Russell's The Devils, a 1971 movie. I don't know if you've seen Ken Russell movies.
Yes.
Have you ever seen that movie?
I've seen that movie, yeah.
Okay, one way to describe it is 1971 was a big year for a lot of movies that were kind of hyper-violent or upsetting. Straw Dogs by Sam Peckinpah, Clockwork Orange by Stanley Kubrick.
Okay.
Those are movies that are hyper-violent, I guess around the late 60s, early 70s. The Hays Code which was like confining artistic visions in movies, was like for 3 decades or so, people couldn't really talk about a lot of things, and people were basically just walking fine lines of censorship just to try to put out movies. And then in the late 60s that ended, and you have stuff like Midnight Cowboy or Easy Rider, stuff like that. Like people started being able to talk about the real life, you know.
Right.
Anyways, Ken Russell's The Devils is a real flamboyant depiction of a true story where, you already know that, but Father Grandier, probably saying the French name wrong, was this like gigolo, woman-loving priest in plague-riddled France, where he had a walled-in town that protected Protestants when the Catholic Church was trying to hunt Protestants and kill them or kick them out. And he refused to do so, and so the Catholic Church found a way to conspire to make wrongful accusations on him and say that he was making a pact with the devil and seducing nuns. And there was hunchbacked, lovesick nun was obsessed with him, made all these accusations against him, and the Catholic Church ran with it. And the movie is so funny and plays out like a flamboyant, wild visual musical, almost in a sense. And by the end of it, it's a horrific witch-burning scene, and it's like becomes like a horror movie at the end. But you have all the elements of humor, like British dry humor and witty dialogue, and lots of sex, and just like a really interesting historical backdrop. But by the end, you're watching like a horror movie by the end, and that movie just moved me on so many levels. And I guess it's so upsetting to the Catholic Church because unlike The Exorcist, where like you have like a girl masturbating with a crucifix, people by the end of that, like they went to the Catholic Church. You know, it actually was good for pew filling. People watch Exorcist, and it's good for business. The Catholic Church is like, this movie is good for business. This movie about the Catholic Church conspiring to have a witch hunt for this good man who atoned for himself at the end. He wanted to be martyred. He was like a faithless man, a womanizer, and he wanted to be martyred, and by the end he was martyred, trying to protect people, and people didn't realize that. It was based on a book by Aldous Huxley. But I'm fascinated with that movie, The Devils. I think that's a great movie, and that is probably like my second or third favorite movie of all time. And another one I really like is Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia by Sam Peckinpah. That's another movie I'm just obsessed with, but yeah, I like movies, but my favorite genre of movies like 70s and 80s. And I'm also fascinated by stuff that's just out of print, hard to find, because I feel like there's a reason you're not supposed to see it. Either somebody like borrowed heavily from it, like a lot of good movies like Black Sunday and Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. Like there's like scenes and shots and frameworks that like Tarantino completely ripped off and doesn't give credit. Like as an example, like some people like they'd rather see the updated, repackaged version of the original of something that was originally made.
Yeah. Well, after I had seen the first Kill Bill, I went and found the movie Lady Snowblood.
Is that an Asian film?
Yes.
Okay, I forget what it is, but I'm not sure if I've seen it.
So pretty much the best way to explain it is, what was the Lucy Liu's character's name in Kill Bill? But you know what I'm talking about. Imagine if she had her own movie. And it, like you say, shot for shot, the whole thing, the outfit exact match. Talk about like just repackaging. Like this movie, knowing its original form, it blew me away. I was like, Jesus, like this is where he got it from. And this original thing is amazing. And that's what I had never thought about going back and digging into movies before then. Putney Smoke was a big one, but the movie Ganja and Hess, I mentioned before, was really inspiring to me. And if you haven't seen it,
I have to see it. I haven't. I know they played at the Mahoning Drive-In last year. And I think it was part of like a voodoo night or something. So like a voodoo type of movie. Yeah, I wish I had seen it. It was like a third on a double feat. It was like a triple feature, and I stayed for the first two. I didn't like. I left at midnight. It was too late for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got really into like blaxploitation for a while, because you start watching them, and to me, you realize like these are good movies with storylines that are thought out.
And they're indie movies. They're independently made.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that My Name is Dolomite, the movie Eddie Murphy played Dolomite.
I haven't seen that one.
It was so well made, and I have a deeper appreciation of like the Rudy Ray Moore and what he went through and how nobody believed in him. And it was just interesting. Like he's kind of like a little chubby guy, so saying I'm going to do like a karate move, and people are like, you can't do karate. It's like, Yeah, he believes in himself. There's like this half-ass little fat leg kick is like it's hilarious to watch. Or a sex scene with this chubby guy. It's hilarious because he believes in himself. So it's so much better than watching like an actual able-bodied karate kick or like a guy in shape making love in a movie. Like we're rooting for this common man because we relate to the common man. I want to see this shit. You know.
Yeah.
I liked Rudy Ray Moore, the Dolomite movies, The Human Tornado, and as far as modern movies go, I thought that was a great biography to watch. Eddie Murphy did a great job showing off who Rudy Ray Moore was, because I did not know the backstory. But like indie filmmaking, it's like you made it because you had no other outlet. You believed in it and you pushed it. You put it together with your own friends and family and money, and you had it done. And we remember it now because of your uncompromised vision. Like I think more people will be watching. I don't know, whatever the more popular movie from 1975 would be, but like more people are watching Dolomite now than whatever, like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly
popular,
what you mean.
Yeah. So that's why I work at a video store, and I'm always trying to surround myself by movies because it makes me feel good. But yeah, that's it. But thanks for asking. I love talking about movies.
One of the movies, if you can find it, I definitely recommend it. It's called This Girl's a Badass. Mm-hmm. I believe it's a Japanese movie. Teenage girl who's a kung fu expert and bike messenger. And she works her bicycle into the kung fu scenes. Beautiful. Like it's part of it. It was really good. I recommend that one too.
Well, I had 2 DUIs, so I had to ride a bicycle for 10 years. So like I want to have like more bicycle heroes in my life.
Okay, no, this is the movie.
To connect to,
This is the movie then.
No, okay. There's not enough bicycle heroes out there. Everyone's in a hot rod.
Do you remember the first time your thoughts were turned to evil things?
He plies me with caresses, lustful, obscene. He enters my bed at night and takes from me that which is consecrated to my divine bridegroom, Jesus Christ.
And what form does his incubus take?
Cock!
Who is responsible for this evil possession?
But of course I can prove nothing. This Mother Superior may be little more than a hysterical nun.
But if it is a genuine case of possession by devils, and if Grandier himself was proved to be involved, then yes, I think it bears investigation, gentlemen.
You've been a magician.
I'd comics with devils.
You face eternal damnation.
Conjecture is useless. We need a professional witch hunter. We must send for Father Barre. Surprises for you.
For the sake of the listener, you have any shows coming up? Places people can catch you?
If you look me up, I'm going to be renting out this flea market space in the corner of the Q Mart in a couple of months. And other than that, I don't know where to put my music. I'm trying to find a place to host my own show. And it's hard, given the backdrop of COVID. It's hard to find these places. So other than the house shows, I don't know where I can actually rent out a place and put together something like that. Because people want you to bring in a crowd, and I like to think that I can probably muster 20 or so people at most. I'm not Jay-Z or Pavarotti selling out stadiums here, but I'd like to think 20 people is a lot for me. Right. I'm proud of that. But I'd like to make that a lot bigger of a dent. But I don't know where to do any shows, so I'm just gonna hit up an open mic everywhere I go. But Scioto, Old Mill Pub on Tuesdays, Emmaus Coffee House, King Coffee on Wednesdays, Thursday once a month at the Steel Pub Ice Skating Rink in Bethlehem. I do stand-up comedy, and every Friday night I do an open mic at the Q Mart. So 4 out of the 5 nights of the week I have something going on, and it's all pretty much open mic right now. And I try to put it up on YouTube. I sometimes make videos, so you can see that stuff. I'm currently recording a song at Rubik's Cube Studios. Right now it's a song. It's kind of like a dance song. Sounds like what I call third world disco music. Okay. I like 70s, 80s, like African rock, Okay. It's called Hot Squirrel. It's very percussive, a lot of fretless, groovy bass in it, and it's a dance song. Minimal lyric, almost no lyrical depth or profound wisdom in it. It's just a feel-good song about squirrels. And again, I just basically trying to find something to sing about so that you're listening to the hook and the groove and the fretless bass and the fun musical tone of it all. So that's kind of be coming out soon when I finish Hot Squirrel. But in recent times, my last masterpiece of a song is called COVID Girl. I finished that in November. If you want to hear it, it's about 6.5 minutes. Bass, drums, guitar, and a lot of fancy banjo jazz. I'm like Django Reinhardt gypsy jazz on the banjo. And it's to me, I don't think there's any real good COVID songs out there, and I'm very proud of it. And some of my finest banjo jazz playing. So if you're interested, you can hear a COVID song with some fantastic music with Vanessa Marciano and Rob Shepard on it. And that's probably one of my most recent music releases that I'm the most proud of. But of all my albums, there's Hex and Dance, Objects in Hi-Fi, Hydra Squirrels, Secrets of the Universe, Hiva Hava, and 9/11 Dolphin Porn. Those are my 6 albums that I have. And 9/11 Dolphin Porn is my most recent. And there's a June 12th Campover Fest where I have a midnight slot at some, I don't know what the heck it is, but it's like a overnight camping thing. I imagine they're jam bands or whatever. I don't know. There's lots of musicians there, but I got the midnight slot, so I don't know what to expect. If they're going to be awake or asleep, if they're going to be tripping their balls off. Like, I have no idea what to expect at midnight, but I'm going to be wearing spandex and American flag as a cape, playing rubber chickens, throwing glitter at the audience, and I'm going to be playing about 15 all-original songs with an amazing band.
Nice.
So that's where I'm at in life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Before we go, I want to ask you about this guy.
This is a rental squirrel.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm borrowing it from Zeke Katz. I don't know if you know Zeke Katz.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course you do. He was Mike Strong's neighbor. I love Zeke. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met and a fantastic musician. And there was a short-lived part of my life where I was told that Netflix was interested in a movie through this production company in Philly. And the idea was pitched to me to do a variety hour or a comedy special. And I had this idea called Nate Marks and the Squirrel Trapper Variety Hour. And rather than be like a one-man show where you go and you present yourself as, here I am, I'm going to tell some jokes, I'm going to be likable and play music. I had this idea of, like, let's say you were just tuning into a show and you're watching this, but instead of a guy trying to win over the audience, he is completely being bashed by the audience. Everyone hates him and everything's falling apart on stage. And it's like the Schadenfreude of watching misery, of getting pleasure from someone else's misery, just watching everything. You know, the laugh track is off. The janitor keeps mopping in front of the cameraman. The audience isn't clapping at anything, and like one of the jokes is like, "Well, what happened to the audience?" And I'm like, the studio production person is like, "Oh, the audience didn't show up because there wasn't a strong response to the ad in the paper, so we borrowed some people from the nearby methadone clinic and promised them free soup." And so you have people like falling asleep and shooting up, and you know, and it's like my pregnant wife shows up and she's demanding. I talk to her lawyer. She interrupts my jokes, and nobody likes my jokes. My songs are interrupted. This show just gets worse and worse, and by the end, we find out the janitor is a Satanist, and his broom closet's a shrine to Satan, and he had made a pact with the devil to offer my show as a sacrifice for his power on earth. And there's going to be a giant squirrel attack at the end, and my pregnant wife, her legs pop open and a bunch of bloody squirrels shoot out of her crotch and attack everyone, and everyone's going to be, and so it's like every element, but this is a script I wrote, and I was really proud of this thing, and I was pitching it to a lot of people, and I told Zeke Katz that I need squirrels. I want squirrels. I want like squirrel puppets, taxidermy squirrels, anything I have. And I guess Zeke's ex-wife had the squirrel. It's like a family heirloom, and he let me borrow it so that you could find a place in this movie. And the movie folded because of creative differences, where I'm just sitting on this script of an amazing story. And this is basically it lights up my room. I have 2 cats and a taxidermy squirrel, and this is my entertainment center. When I go home, I just, light some incense. I pet this thing. It's very lonely. I spoon it. I feed it acorns, but you can't really see it, but its face has fallen off. And I love Zeke, but I really don't want to give it back. But I'm going to have to give it back, because unless I have it anywhere, I don't know where else I've got to go with this thing. But it's bragging rights, I also feel like there's too many people at a bar or like a restaurant, and you want some more elbow room. You just whip this thing out, put it on the table, and people, okay, this guy's leave him alone. Yep. He's got a faceless squirrel, a dead animal on the counter. We're gonna give him some space. So,
do you have any intention of trying to resurrect that script eventually?
Actually, as a matter of fact, so the whole thing is going to be done like you're watching a talk show or a stand-up performance. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what I would have to do is there's about 15 people with speaking parts. The audience is really the joke. Like me, I'm just basically the guy that's falling apart at the expense of everyone. I don't know what to do with it or how to go about it, where to pitch it to, but I do know this. I don't want to compromise anything. And if I raise the money, I want to have the final say in it. And that was one of the problems with making this thing, that I was supposed to be taking a backseat approach to having somebody else run with my things. And comedy, like anything, is timing. Like, if you're not funny, and I don't want to fund a movie of my intellectual property and then have it poorly edited where the jokes fall flat and you don't get it.
Yeah.
And I also found that the person I was working with was also a bit condescending, assuming that I should be starstruck because you have connections to Hollywood or Netflix. I don't really care for most Hollywood stuff or Netflix stuff, and I'm not a starstruck boy. Like, what I want is results. Like, I want to make something great. I don't care what your resume says. I want to work something good here and now. And I didn't feel like I was seeing that professionalism that was bragged about. But I was grateful of the opportunity to be in a studio, to have a script printed out, and to have a read of it. But it was in the back of my mind, I felt like this was not going to be something that I was going to be. It was not going to be realized as intended. And I did not want to release a half-assed shell of a version of the idea that I had of the Nate Marks and the Squirrel Trapper Variety Hour. But, to my knowledge, there's about 20 people in the whole universe that know what the script is, and that's people that had read the whole thing. And it was such a rewarding feeling to have people in a room reading my script going around, and to have them actually laughing. And I'd be like, stay in character or whatever, but like I'm realizing that's what it's supposed to be like. These are funny jokes. And then there's a lot of stuff I try to sneak in there, like personal messages, things that I think I do want to have a message. I don't want to be preachy, but I do want to talk about real things. I'm not shy about real things or the problems of the world. I want to laugh at them and talk about them. So there was a lot of topical subject matter that I had in there, disguised as the entertainment that it is, but there was a lot of stuff I was talking about. Yeah.
So you don't give away anything you don't want to give away, but like what would be an example of like one of your topical things that you hit on in this movie, and how are you approaching it?
All right, a good one. And I felt like maybe uneasy about this script because I gave it to a bunch of people. Like, I want to know, does this sound like a good joke? Is this a funny thing? So I'm trying to talk about something. One of the things is that, I'll give you two examples. But one of the things was that I'm doing my stand-up routine, and then the headset person with the clipboard, who's basically trying to like run the show and help me out with this production, comes up and says, Nate, we just got a message from headquarters from the network, and they're saying there's not enough diversity in your audience. Your variety show lacks variety, in other words. I said, well, what do you mean? That's not up to me. Like, you guys get the people from the methadone clinic and nobody's going out. I don't know. What do you want me to do about the lack of diversity? And I look out, and it's a majority of like almost an all-white audience with a couple of black people speckled in and out through the middle and the end of the audience crowd. And so the joke pretty much is it's a great joke. The idea is, she says, well, we have to do some seating arrangements so that we can have a better, diverse, showcased audience to improve our ratings. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? It's like, well, we have to start rearranging people. So I said, all right, guys, this isn't up to me. And it's like acting like it's as casual, like you, and you have to get up and like acting like it's random. You, and you. I point to some black people, like, you got to switch seats with you and this. And then somebody's like, hey, what's this about, man? And then she's like explaining, like, it's about ratings. We're trying to have a better diversity for a mass market appeal. And I hope you understand it's not us. It's the network. It's nothing personal. We just have to rearrange some people for some mass appeal. And a black guy's like, reverse racism is still racism. And like, okay, like I said, it's not up to me. I said, some of my best friends are black. And everyone's like, yeah, right, okay. And then when it gets to this woman, her name is Mela Shea. She's a comedian. She has cerebral palsy and she's Jewish. And when it gets to her, they say, I'm sorry, miss, we have to get you up. She goes like, piss off. I represent diversity. I am diversity. I have cerebral palsy and I'm Jewish. And then I say to the clipboard lady, is cerebral palsy or Jewish good for ratings? I'm like, no, horrible for ratings. I said, I'm sorry, we have to ask you to leave. And like, there's like a black woman like sitting behind her, like rocking, like she can't wait to get these seats. Like, oh, these are nice seats, And the cerebral palsy woman, she's like, well, this is horrible. I can't believe you're treating your audience so shittily. And like, and the extension of the joke's like, it's not like that. Some of my best friends have cerebral palsy and are Jewish, And then as the black woman takes her seat, the cerebral palsy woman gets up, falls down, gets up, falls down. It's just like, and then there's like this racial tension amongst the audience and me. And like, I'm still trying to do my show, but it's sort of like we're in a modern day where people should just gauge entertainment by the quality of the entertainment, not a checklist of identity politics, which I do understand. Like, you do have to have a fair playing field and show all the world, but you can't just have like, you can't just have a checklist for your story. You have to have the story, you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to show that reverse racism is still racism, and that we should laugh about it and talk about it, because these networks are pandering to people. And Netflix is probably owned by a lot of white people, so like they're trying to say like, hey, this show's great for the community, this show's great for the community. It's like, you know, these are written by people designed to try to get ratings and to try to push more. It perpetuates more than it helps. You know, people should talk about racism. People should talk about social injustices. They really should. But but you trying to make a buck on it, that you're an exploiter. You know, you're a carpetbagger. You're exploiting the actual situation of people's struggles, and then trying to pat yourself on the back by exploiting it, making money off it, by further perpetuating it. And so that was one of the jokes. And the other joke was sort of like the Me Too movement, where when my pregnant wife stands up and says she's pregnant with my child, and how she plans, if my show's a success, to take every bit of money she's entitled to because of my unborn child. And I'm like, Veronica. Also, all the nemesis in my stories and songs is named Veronica. Like, I have this thing again about Veronicas. I'm like, Veronica, we don't even know if the child is mine. And she goes, a woman always knows, you know, like admitting that it might not be mine. And when the word gets out that she might be entitled to like my money if I get this thing to be profitable, all the women start standing up. What about me? I'm pregnant with your child. And I'm like, before you guys start gold digging upon me with these false claims, we don't even know if the show is a hit, you know? And so it was like funny to me, because it's easy to, you know, they're valid movements. They're valid movements, but we're also talking about, like, hating men is also a thing. Like, not every guy's a piece of shit. A lot of them are, but not every guy's a piece of shit. Right. And there's lots of gold diggers out there. For every guy that is a misogynist, you know, hateful, terrible person, there's also, like, the gold digger we don't really hear about that will make up whatever she has to just to pick the guy's pockets clean. You know what I mean? We don't talk about that. But people can make a career out of making babies. You know what I mean? We should talk about that. We should laugh about that. And that was the purpose of this thing, just to talk about things that are uncomfortable and have it, because it's a show that's supposed to make me look bad and have all this awkward tension laughed at the expense of me. And I want everybody to be able to laugh at these horrible things that do exist in the world. And that was two jokes, the Me Too movement and like reverse racism, identity politic pandering. I wanted that to be showcased in this. And also there's music, comedy, and by the end, a giant bloody squirrel attack upon everybody. So, I don't think I gave too much away, but if you read it, like
but that's a good. I want to see I'm supporting it happening now. I want to see.
I'll do a script read for you. You can see all the jokes play out, but it's a wonderful script. I'm very proud of it, and I was glad that I had the opportunity to be pushed into making it. I am sitting on a couple scripts. If anybody's listening or they like this kind of thing, I do have 2 short films on YouTube. One is called The Human Unicorn. It's about the last remaining video store clerk in the world. I filmed it on location at a 48-hour video store where I worked for 5 years, and I could go on about all the stuff that I've encountered there. It's really fascinating, but at the end, it was basically I was babysitting a ghost town, and majority of the people are just people that didn't discover internet and are really into porn. Like, porn kept them going for so long. Half the store was adult movies. The first movie is The Human Unicorn. That's about... it's a video store mockumentary, 15 minutes, and the other one is called A Fall from the Bun, the MC Dogwater story. And that is basically me as a washed-up folk singer that was part of a spearhead of the hot dog folk music scene, where if you know Yakko's hot dog theme song, I don't know if you know Yakko's has a hot dog theme song. So I'm in hot dog country, Pennsylvania, and in hot dog country, Pennsylvania, you have Yakko's, Willie Joe's, Potts, Annie's, Trob's. Those are like hot dog franchises, and Yakko's has a theme song. So I had this idea in my head, like, let's say that Yakko's didn't just have the only theme song. Every one of these hot dog places had its own theme song, and behind that theme song was some hot dog folk singer. And so this is basically the aftermath of all these washed up hot dog folk singers hating each other, and there's like this folk war rivalry out in the streets, people singing about hot dogs. So it's filmed in different hot dog restaurants, and I'm MC Dogwater, and my rival is Bill Madey. You met him at the open mic. He's a funny old guy.
Yes, you had sent me this movie. I did watch it.
Oh, okay.
It was awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So Bill Midday, he's in both my movies. He's an independent pornographer, and the 48 Hour, he's R.J. Kunkel Stump. He makes his own homemade pornos, and he brings them in a briefcase, tries to sell them to video stores. And in the second one, he's Steam Buns Midday, and he's the guy that basically claims he started the hot dog folk music scene, but in reality, he lit the torch while MC Dogwater carried the torch to the mountaintop. You know, in the world of hot dog folk music, and that again is a 15-minute movie, and I did pay to submit it to a couple film festivals, but it never went anywhere. Gotcha. But yeah, that was 2 mockumentaries that I'm proud of, and again, it's like a vehicle for my music, jokes, and it's like funny. I think they're good stories. They're fun.
It was real great having you on. I'm glad we got the chance to.
You could probably edit this down to like 4 minutes.
No, we're doing the whole thing. We're all in.
Okay.
We're all in. This podcast is not just a tip, Nate.
Just a tip. Okay, I want to get balls deep with it.
Yeah, we're this is the whole thing.
Wonderful.
But yeah, thanks so much for doing this. I definitely want to have you
shake
back
your hand
on.
over it so you hear the handshake. Thank you, Isaac.
Yeah.
Thank you, Albert and Isaac. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise.
I'm my own I'm my own biggest fan, so I like promoting whatever the hell I'm doing.
Yeah, and you're on Facebook.
I'm on Facebook and YouTube, yeah. But what really matters to me is like not to be friends with me in real life, and if you can, watch me in real life. But if not, there's lots of stuff on YouTube. But I do like you liking my stuff. But like me in real life, meet me in real life. I'm a nice guy. I like to talk to you, and I want to perform anywhere. Anybody that's looking for music or comedy, and I'm trying to forge a network with lots of like-minded artistic allies in comedy, music, and art. And I'm lucky that I have the friends that I do, because that's where I'm at right now.
Well, there you go, folks. What a great podcast. I want to really sincerely thank Nate Marks for coming on the show, giving some of his time, and covering all the topics that we covered. It was really great to have him on. I was been excited since I recorded this for you all to hear it. I also want to really thank my bro Isaac for week after week being my modern day Ed McMahon. It's great to have him on the show. You can find his work on Instagram at when_in_zen. And you can find my work and what I'm going to be up to coming soon. I got some new art shows happening. Got a bunch of new podcasts coming down the pike at you. You can find all that information and more on my Instagram at Albert Shivers. Once again, a thank you to Nate Marks. Find him on Instagram at Nate Marks2. Find him on Facebook. And more importantly, find him in person. Go visit him. Say hello. Thank you all for listening immensely. You guys are why I do this. You can find this episode and more on all major podcast platforms and YouTube with video. Another big, great guest next week. I'm excited for it. And yeah, I'm going to hand it over to Nate now to bring this podcast home. And until next time, take care of yourself and take care of somebody else.
It's time to